Chapter 604. Elder Moron, the young master is here. The young man in a blue shirt stood outside the basilica and announced. A young man in a blue shirt stood beside the basilica. He looked ordinary, but he was handsome. "Young master, please come in." Morong Chun's voice was heard. The young man who brought Chu Li and the others here reported to him and turned to the other side of the basilica. He stood straight and looked straight ahead. Chu Li waved at Zhou Hang and Chu Daji and stepped into the basilica alone. The basilica was brightly lit, and the floor was paved with white jade-like stones. It felt warm when one stepped on it, as if it was really made of white jade. 4 elders stood in the middle of the basilica. Other than Morong Chun and Xia Lian, there were 2 other elders with white hair and a youthful complexion. The 4 of them looked gloomy. The originally brightly lit basilica was now depressing, and the air seemed to have thickened. "Young master, come over and take a look." Morong Chun waved. Chu Li Fis saluted and did not say anything. He walked over lazily. They were surrounding a corpse. It looked like it was in a deep sleep, as its face was still rosy. However, Chu Li knew that this person was dead and had been dead for a long time. Even he could not save him. "This is Gu Tai, an outstanding disciple of the sect. He was killed when he left the mountain. 2 of our grandmasters were injured. These people are getting more and more out of hand." Morong Chun said in a low voice. Chu Li glanced at Gu Tai lazily. He died peacefully. He was killed with 1 punch. It was the Divine Light Fist. The Divine Light Fist. Everyone was stunned. Chu Li looked at them and said, "You don't know about the Divine Light Fist?" "Which sect is the Divine Light Fist?" Morong Chun asked. Chu Li looked at them in confusion. Logically speaking, the Holy Church of Light's position in the Li dynasty was higher than the Tempest Temple. How could a first-rate faction like the Crouching Bull Mountain not know about the Holy Church of Light? It's the martial arts of the Holy Church of Light. Elder Morong doesn't know about it, Chu Li said. The Holy Church of Light of the Li dynasty. Morong Chun's expression changed. Chu Li looked at him and knew that Morong Chun knew about the Holy Church of Light and how powerful it was. The Holy Church of Light, Xia Lian, and the other 2's expressions changed too. Chu Li said, "You know about the Holy Church of Light, but you didn't recognize the Divine Light Fist. We've only heard of them, but we've never seen any disciples of the Holy Church of Light." Morong Chun shook his head. "All we know is that they're extremely powerful, and they're not afraid of death." Chu Li nodded. "This is obviously the Divine Light Fist. The person who threw the punch must be a grandmaster. Holy Church of Light." Morong Chun's expression darkened even more. If it were any other sect, they would be worried, but they did not lose hope. As long as the mountain chieftain came out of seclusion, he would definitely be able to resist these sneaky fellows. When the time came, they would eradicate them in one fell swoop and vent their anger. However, when they heard that it was the Holy Church of Light, they knew that something was wrong, and their hearts sank. "Actually, there is no need for everyone to be so worried," Xia Lian said. "The Holy Church of Light is indeed powerful, but they're still in the Li dynasty after all. It's impossible for them to move all their people to the Ji dynasty. Sending a few masters is already giving me a headache." Morong Chun smiled bitterly. Chu Li was deep in thought. He was also thinking about what the Holy Church of Light was trying to do. It was understandable that they were acting sneakily. Once their identities were exposed, the 4 major sects would definitely attack. No matter how powerful they would not be able to fight against the 4 major sects' encirclement. It was also impossible for them to move all the masters from the Holy Church of Light here. However, why did they want to go against Crouching Bull Mountain? To destroy Crouching Bull Mountain or Did they want to occupy Crouching Bull Mountain and obtain the surpassing state, then use the concentration talisman and formations to cultivate an endless stream of grandmasters? He needed the surpassing state, but the Holy Church of Light did not lack it. They must have different goals. Or was there something on Crouching Bull Mountain that they wanted to seize? Just like back then in Fairy's capital, his mind raced, and he frowned. However, it was strange that they used the Divine Light Fist to kill people. Were they so sure that Crouching Bull Mountain would not recognize this fist technique? Were they not afraid of exposing their identities? Xia Lian said, "Young lord, what do you think?" Chu Li looked up and glanced at the four of them. "What about you guys? In my opinion, we should ask the high monks from the Tempest Temple to come here." Morong Chun said, "Once the Tempest Temple knows that it's the Holy Church of Light, they will definitely help." Chu Li nodded. Xia Lian said, "But the Tempest Temple can only help for a while. They can't help forever, right? Let's take care of the present first." Morong Chun said, "We'll talk about it after we get through this. We can't just watch our disciples die." Sigh. Xia Lian sighed and nodded helplessly. Chu Li said, "We don't have to go to the Tempest Temple. I'll do it." "Young lord," Morong Chun quickly waved his hand. "I know that young lord's swordsmanship is superb, but the Holy Church of Light is not an ordinary person. That woman can defeat the Hill Master. If anything happens to young lord, how are we going to explain it to the Hill Master?" In his opinion, the young lord's swordsmanship was superb, but it might not be stronger than the Hill Master. The Hill Master was unpredictable and had a cultivation level like the sea, but he was still no match for that woman. The young lord might not be able to defeat her. The young lord had such a cultivation level at such a young age. It could be said that he was the hope of Crouching Bull Mountain. The glory of Crouching Bull Mountain was on him. If he died here, it would be the biggest loss for Crouching Bull Mountain. They would rather lose more disciples than let the young lord take this risk. Xia Lian said, "Young lord, be careful." Chu Li glanced at them lazily and said, "Do you think that my martial arts is not good enough and I can't defeat them?" This. Morong Chun sighed. "It's the Holy Church of Light, after all." Chu Li said, "All right, leave this to me. I'll do it myself." "Young lord." Morong Chun and Xia Lian were anxious. Chu Li waved his hand. "You can't stop me. Young lord, how do you plan to do it?" Morong Chun asked. "It's very easy," Chu Li said. "I'll go down the mountain again, and use me as bait. I'd like to see how many martial arts masters the Holy Church of Light has sent, and if it's enough for me to kill." He did not want to expose that he was proficient in tracking skills. It was rare to have such a divine power in the world, and it was also rare to have someone who was proficient in tracking skills. It would be too easy for people to connect the dots and suspect his identity. This, Morong Chun, was in a difficult position. He sighed. "They might not fall for it." Chu Li said lazily, "They're like a cat playing with a mouse. They won't care if the mouse is tricked or not. They'll kill it when they see it." "But young lord, you—" Xia Lian finally sighed. "All right then, Elder Morong, and I will protect you personally." Chu Li smiled. Sure. He knew that if he did not let the two of them go, they would argue for a long time. He did not want to trouble them, so he simply agreed. "We'll go down the mountain tonight." Chu Li said, "All right." The two of them nodded and looked at each other. The two elders said, "Count us in as well." Chu Li said, "Don't let them raid our lair. Elder Morong and Elder Xia will be enough." The founders of the sect were all extremely intelligent people. The elders and grandmasters of Crouching Bull Mountain lived halfway up the mountain to protect the entrance of the valley where the disciples of Crouching Bull Mountain were. If anyone wanted to invade Crouching Bull Mountain, they would have to go through this first. Chapter 605. The night was deep, and the moonlight was like water. Chu Li, Murong Chun, and Xia Lian glided down from the treetops. The ancient tree towered into the sky, making them look especially small. They reached the foot of the mountain in one go and continued south. 100 miles away was a small town where they bought their daily necessities. Murong Chun asked, "Young lord, how do you know about the divine light fist?" "We saw each other when we went down the mountain. Young master actually saw it with his own eyes." "Yes, I've fought with the disciples of the Holy Church of Light," Chu Li replied lazily. "I killed 2 of them along the way." Murong Chun and Xia Lian were shocked. They looked at each other and came to a realization. No wonder the young lord was not afraid of the Holy Church of Light and did not care about it at all. It turned out that he had killed a disciple of the Holy Church of Light before. "I heard that the Holy Church of Light will never let go of their enemies. They have a secret skill that allows them to track down their enemies," Murong Chun said. "Is that true?" "It should be true," Chu Li said faintly. "These existences from the 4 major sects all know some mysterious secret skills. You can't underestimate them." He really did not know that the Holy Church of Light had such capabilities. The Holy Church of Light and the Titanium Temple were on the same level, so it was not surprising that they had a secret skill that was similar to the all-seeing heaven and earth. However, they did not go after Chu Li. Could it be that Chu Li also had a divine power or the omniscient mirror that could interfere with their tracking secret skill? "Young master, you have to be careful of them," Murong Chun said. "They will never let their enemies go." Chu Li smiled. "Could it be that I attracted the Holy Church of Light? When did the young lord kill the disciples of the Holy Church of Light?" Murong Chun and Xia Lian looked at each other and quickly asked. "A month ago," Chu Li replied. Murong Chun shook his head. "That's not it. They were even earlier." Xia Lian said, "Why did they have to find us?" Chu Li said, "Maybe we have something that they want to snatch. I don't think we can give it to the Yun Nation. Otherwise, they would have come to us directly to demand it. We would have given it to the Yun Nation if we could. Since they attacked us directly, they obviously knew that we would never agree to it." "You're right, young lord." Murong Chun nodded slowly. "Could it be our surpassing state?" Chu Li asked. He activated the omniscient mirror and tried to find the surpassing state in their minds. "Surpassing state?" Murong Chun frowned and shook his head. "The surpassing state can't be moved away, so it's unlikely. Moreover, the Holy Church of Light's surpassing state is better than ours." Chu Li shook his head in disappointment. The surpassing state appeared in their minds, but there was no location of the surpassing state. They only knew that it was a valley with pleasant scenery, bird song, and fragrant flowers. The air was exceptionally fresh. The freshness of the air was their deepest impression, and they could not forget it. "I'll ask them when I catch them," Chu Li said. Murong Chun shook his head. The disciples of the Holy Church of Light couldn't get any information out of them. While the 3 of them were talking, they ran another 5 or 6 miles. Suddenly, 4 men in black appeared 100 meters away. They stood quietly on the treetops and sized them up. Their eyes were filled with ridicule and excitement. Chu Li said faintly, "Be careful, there are still 2 more hiding." Murong Chun and Xia Lian smiled bitterly. How could they be so careful when they were playing a game of cat and mouse? Apart from these 4, there were 2 more. That meant that they had sent out 6 people to deal with the 3 of them. "You 2 stay together and don't separate," Chu Li said. "I'll do it myself." After he said that, he suddenly sped up and rushed to the front of a middle-aged man in black before them. He stretched out his left palm, and at the same time, a sword flashed by his waist. Ugh! The middle-aged man in black was defending against his palm energy when a cold glint suddenly appeared in front of him. He wanted to dodge, but he could not. When the alarm rose in his heart, the tip of the sword had already pierced his throat. He watched helplessly as the sword pierced his throat and punched out unwillingly. Bang! Chu Li took this punch head-on. The fist energy was not pure enough, and the heavenly demonic orb was too lazy to come out, so he did not move at all. He once again shot towards another elder in black. The sword flashed at an incredible speed. The elder in black could already see that his sword was fast, so he quickly fluttered backward and used his body movement technique to slow down the sword's momentum. Chu Li became one with his sword and turned into a cold glint as he shot towards the elder in black. Ding! A clear sound was heard. A sword blocked in front of the elder in black's throat. Then, the long sword was swung away, and the elder who was holding the sword flew out. Chu Li's sword contained a huge amount of inner force, and it directly sent the elder who was holding the sword flying. Chu Li took advantage of the situation and stabbed again. The elder in black lowered his head to avoid his throat, but his forehead was cut open. The tip of the sword grazed past his scalp and cut it open, revealing a long wound. Blood instantly gushed out and dyed his hair. It then flowed down along his temples as if he was sweating blood. The elder in black flipped over and landed under the tree. He quickly took out a medicine bottle and sprinkled some powder on his head. Chu Li fluttered down the tree and stabbed him again. He wanted to take advantage of his weakness to take his life. The sword flashed, and the elder in black quickly retreated behind the tree. Chu Li was impatient. He took a step forward, and it was as if he had passed through a tree as thick as two people hugging around it. In an instant, he appeared behind the elder in black. The elder in black was hiding behind the tree. He felt that no matter how fast Chu Li's sword was, it would not be able to pierce through this ancient fruit tree. Suddenly, he felt a pain in his chest. Chu Li's sword had already pierced through his heart, and the tip of the sword was exposed from his chest. The two middle-aged men in gray saw that the situation was not good, so they quickly rushed over from behind the tree. However, when they got close, Chu Li had already pulled out his sword. The elder in black was stabbed through his chest, and blood was gushing out. Then, his head was separated from his body. Chu Li swung his sword across his neck, cutting off any hope of prolonging his life with the spirit medicine. Ah! The two middle-aged men in gray roared. Their bodies suddenly expanded as they performed their secret skill. Chu Li could see a ball of fire rising from their bodies. It was burning fiercely, burning their vital essence and vitality, turning them into inner energy. They rushed over like two gusts of wind, and while they were in the air, they swung their fists. It was the divine light fist. Chu Li did not dodge or evade the attack. The purplish-golden light in his clothes flashed faintly, and then two muffled bam-bam sounds were heard. Two pure fist forces entered his body and turned into two hot flames that burned his inner energy. The divine light fist was shockingly powerful. The fist force was like a raging fire that could burn everything. The heavenly demonic orb suddenly appeared and swallowed the two balls of flames. Then it returned to the front of his precordium. Chu Li took a step back, dispersing the power of the fist force itself. He smiled. The fist force of the divine light fist was indeed extraordinary. Moreover, the two men's fist techniques were well trained, which was why there was such a pure fist force. It was very beneficial to him. He was not in a hurry to kill the two men. Instead, he floated up to the tree. At this time, Murong Chun and Xia Lian were fighting one man each, so they had the upper hand. When Chu Li appeared, the two men knew that something was wrong. Suddenly, their bodies contracted as if they had become thinner. Their bodies began to burn their vital essence and vitality. Their body techniques became faster, and the power of their fist force increased. Murong Chun and Xia Lian were instantly suppressed to the point that they could not even lift their heads. The two middle-aged men in gray pounced at Chu Li, and the fist force had already reached his body. Bam! Bam! Chu Li took two solid punches as he retreated. Murong Chun and Xia Lian were shocked. When they looked again, Chu Li had already sheathed his sword. Both of his hands were holding onto one of the two middle-aged men's fists. The three of them were competing with their inner energy. Chapter 606. Chu Li performed the cloud slashing power and cloud slashing palm to devour their inner energy. The two middle-aged men in gray had strong inner energy. Under the effect of the secret skill, their inner energy was even more powerful. Chu Li was having a hard time. He felt like he could not devour their inner energy. The cloud slashing palm energy seemed to be slowly being expelled. Chu Li simply recalled it and swallowed the heavenly demonic orb. In a flash, he appeared behind Murong Chun's opponent. His sword flashed. The middle-aged man in black reacted quickly. After performing the secret skill, he was completely different. He could not react in time before. Now, he could keep up with Chu Li's speed and dodge the sword in time. Chu Li's long sword swiped at the man's throat. It was an exquisite move, and the tip of the sword was aimed at the man's throat. The man in black had no choice but to retreat. He performed the secret skill and burned his blood essence. He still wanted to kill Chu Li before he met Mahavairocana. He could not die in vain. Chu Li said, "Elder Morong, go help Elder Xia. Leave the rest to me." "All right." Morong Chun shouted and pounced on Xia Lian's opponent. He could tell that the young lord's martial arts was exquisite and far beyond his imagination. He was not at a disadvantage against 2 people and might not lose against 3 people. He and Elder Xia should focus on 1 person. As long as they could defeat 1 person, the situation would be completely different. Chu Li said, "They've already performed the secret skill. They'll definitely die, so be careful." The 2 of them were shocked. After looking at each other, their bodies suddenly expanded. They performed the secret skill of Crouching Bull Mountain and sped up. Their palm energy spread and suppressed the Elder in Black's momentum. Chu Li's swordsmanship was fast and exquisite. Although the Elder in Black was strong, he was quickly hit twice by Chu Li's sword. However, he still continued to attack without fear of death. His expression was solemn, as if he was doing something great. He did not care about the blood on his shoulder and forehead. The 2 middle-aged men in gray pounced on him again, forming a pincer attack. Chu Li skillfully fought against the 3 men. He suppressed them with his exquisite sword technique and took the opportunity to perform the cloud slashing palm to devour their inner energy. Bam, 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 bam. Morong Chun and Xia Lian clashed with the middle-aged man in black. Their palm energy and fist energy collided continuously. The middle-aged man in black looked solemn and holy. His body faintly glowed with a white light that grew brighter. In the end, his body suddenly lit up. Morong Chun and Xia Lian quickly retreated. When they opened their eyes again, he was already gone. Chu Li raised his voice. "They insist on fighting with their lives on the line. Be careful." He had originally thought that the 6 of them would run away if they couldn't defeat him, but in the end, none of them had any intention of running away. Instead, they insisted on killing him, as if he really was an irreconcilable enemy that they didn't hesitate to use their secret techniques to kill him. Once the secret skill of the Holy Church of Light was activated, Dipamkara's blood essence and lifespan would be consumed. Soon, he would leave this world and enter the Mahavairocana world. "Young Lord, why don't we retreat?" Morong Chun quickly suggested. He was a little afraid. There was really no need to fight these madmen who were not afraid of death. Chu Li said, "Kill them all." "We'll lend you a hand," Xia Lian said hurriedly. Chu Li was surrounded by 3 people. He raised his voice and said, "There's no need for that. Be careful of your surroundings." When they saw that Chu Li was fighting with ease, they did not force themselves to approach him. They withdrew their secret skills and took the opportunity to rest. The intense fight earlier had left them with lingering fear. It had been a long time since they experienced something so thrilling. As time passed, the 3 disciples of the Holy Church of Light who had activated their secret skills slowly began to glow. Chu Li watched as they turned into 3 rays of light and shot into the sky. Then a door vaguely appeared. The 3 rays of light entered the door and disappeared. "This is..." Morong Chun and Xia Lian were shocked. Chu Li said, "This is why the disciples of the Holy Church of Light are not afraid of death. It's because death is their ultimate pursuit. After death, they will enter the Mahavairocana world of ultimate bliss and enjoy the wonders of bliss." terrifying. The two of them sighed. Chuli shook his head. I thought they would run away. Then, we'll chase after them and raid their lair. Our wishful thinking didn't work out. They actually wanted to kill us. It's a little strange. Why did they insist on killing the three of them? He turned to look and frowned. Lady, can you show yourself now? Great martial arts. A crisp and gentle voice rang out. It seemed to come from all directions and lingered in the surroundings. It was ethereal and seemed to come from the edge of the sky. No one could tell where it was coming from. Chuli sighed in realization. They're really crazy. He immediately understood why the six of them were so desperate. It was because of this woman. However, this woman just stood by and watched. She did not have the slightest intention of helping them. She just watched as the six grandmasters died. Even if the Holy Church of Light was powerful, losing six grandmasters was still a great loss. However, this woman who wore a white veil just watched them die, without helping them at all. He could tell that this woman had a profound cultivation level. She was even more powerful than him. If he did not use the heavenly demonic power, he might not be able to defeat her. Through the omniscient mirror, he could see that this woman had a graceful and alluring figure. However, he could not see her face. The white veil she wore had a strange power that blocked the omniscient mirror's prying. Not only did this white veil cover her face, but it also covered her mind. He could not see what she was thinking. It's her. Morong Chun and Xia Lian's expressions changed. They said nervously, Young Lord, be careful. Her palm technique is very powerful. The Hill Master was injured by her palm. Chuli nodded. A white shadow flashed by. A woman with a white veil stood on the treetop. Under the moonlight, her body was white and flawless. She did not belong to the mortal world. She was so light that it seemed like she was floating with the night breeze. The white veil covered her face. Only her smooth forehead and clear eyes could be seen. Her eyes were long and narrow. They were as bright as the autumn waters. When she looked around, she was extremely charming. She was another stunner. Are you the young lord of the Crouching Bull Mountain, Zhugatian? The woman in white asked softly. Her voice seemed to come from the edge of the sky. Chuli glanced at her lazily. Who are you? Lu Yunxin. The woman in white said softly, How is your hill master doing? He's an isolated cultivation. Why are you looking for him? I'm afraid you can't be the head of the house. The woman in white, Lu Yunxin, chuckled. He killed so many disciples. Why won't he come out to see me? Does he really want to be a coward? You killed so many disciples just to see him. Chuli said coldly. Lu Yunxin nodded. Of course. Chuli said, This is how the Holy Church of Light does things. You don't care about other people's lives. Living is just a journey. Dying is nothing, Lu Yunxin said softly. I don't know if Zhugafeng will come out after I kill you. Chuli said, He won't. He and I are strangers. He can't wait for me to die. That might not be true. Lu Yunxin chuckled. You can try. It doesn't matter. There might be a surprise. Chuli scoffed. Then try. Chapter 607. Hold on. Morong Chun quickly said, I want to know why Miss Lu is looking for our hill master. Is it a personal grudge? What kind of personal grudge could we have? Lu Yunxin chuckled and said lightly, You can't be thinking that I have feelings for him, right? Isn't that so? Morong Chun was confused. He originally thought that Miss Lu might have an affair with the hill master. The hill master abandoned her, and she held a grudge. She wanted to take revenge on the hill master, or make the hill master admit his mistake, or even beg for forgiveness. The hill master was unwilling, so Lu Yunxin injured the hill master. The hill master went into isolated cultivation to suppress her. She saw that the hill master was avoiding her, so she used this trick to force the hill master out. This kind of thing was very cliché, but because it was common, it was easy to happen. The hill master was handsome. This was the time when a man's charm was at its strongest. Coupled with his exceptional martial arts and high status, he was fatally attractive to women. It was normal to have such a woman like him. Unfortunately, this was a romantic disaster. It was a huge disaster that concerned the life and death of Crouching Bull Mountain. The hill master was in big trouble. He wanted to clarify if it was really the hill master's fault. It was better to let the hill master suffer and make up for it. Lu Yunxin giggled, her body trembling. Her laughter was gentle and pleasant. It made one's heart flutter, and it had the ability to captivate one's soul. Murong Chun and Xia Lian listened to the laughter, and their hearts floated. They quickly took a deep breath and calmed down. Then why did you? Chu Li urged impatiently. When he transformed into Zhuge Tian, his personality was also very similar. It was like an instinct, an ability that came from the heavenly demonic power. He did not need to deliberately imitate. As long as he hinted that he was Zhuge Tian, he would naturally act and speak like Zhuge Tian. I can't say. Lu Yinxin giggled. It's useless even if I say it. You can't make the decision. I'm the young lord. I can make half the decision, Chu Li said. Lu Yinxin giggled again. Her voluptuous body trembled. Every tremble made Murong Chun and Xia Lian's hearts tremble. Although they did not see her face, they could not help but be attracted by her voice and demeanor. Chu Li said coldly, "What's so funny?" "I know that you, young master, are trash." Lu Yunxin laughed. "You can't talk in front of Zhuge Feng, so don't brag. Moreover, do you still want to return to the mountain?" Chu Li said coldly. "Do you think you can keep us here?" Arrogant. Lu Yinxin softly spat out these two words. A white shadow flashed and instantly appeared in front of Chu Li. Her white fist punched through the air. Chu Li took a step forward and dodged the divine light fist. At the same time, the tip of his sword was already at her throat. Ding! She extended her left hand in front of her and lightly flicked the tip of Chu Li's sword with her slender fingers. The sword trembled as if it had come to life. This finger seemed to be light and graceful, like a lover's caress and play, but it contained a powerful and pure power that almost sent the sword flying. Chu Li did not expect that her light and delicate body could contain such great power. She was obviously prepared for his swift sword. This finger was specifically waiting for him to restrain him. She wanted to defeat him in one strike and deflect his sword. Chu Li vibrated the sword. Through this vibration, he continuously removed the power of the sword. With a slap of his left palm, his body movement technique flashed behind her like a ghost. The Shura palm made his body twice as fast. Lu Yinxin was secretly shocked, but she did not panic. She did not expect Chu Li's body movement technique to be faster. It was obvious that he was holding back earlier. Bang! The white fist collided with Chu Li's left palm and made a muffled sound. Huh! Lu Yinxin looked at him in surprise. Chu Li floated backward. The heavenly demonic orb appeared in a flash and swallowed the flame-like divine light fist. Lu Yinxin also floated backward and noticed the strangeness of Chu Li's palm energy. This palm energy swallowed her inner energy. The more she tried to expel it, the more it swallowed. She could not expel it. She had never heard of such a strange palm energy. It was really strange. You are not using the martial arts of the Crouching Bull Mountain. Lu Yinxin scoffed. Chu Li said, "Who said it's not the martial arts of the Crouching Bull Mountain? The martial arts of the Crouching Bull Mountain are vast and uncountable. This is an antique study passed down from the ancient Crouching Bull Mountain. Very few people have successfully cultivated it. I have a little talent and managed to cultivate it. How does Miss Lu feel?" He seemed to be smiling, but his sarcasm was obvious. "Very good." Lu Yunxin's long and narrow eyes showed excitement. "It is indeed an antique study." Chu Li said lightly, "The taste is not bad, right?" Lu Yunxin laughed softly and said, "You have to pay the price for making fun of me." Chu Li said, "You won't be able to cultivate such a martial art even if you learn it. This heart technique can only be learned by men." "What a pity," he said and shook his head. Lu Yunxin's long and narrow eyes showed anger. Suddenly, she threw a punch. Her small white hand clenched into a fist as if it was carved from white jade. Bang! Murong Chun flew straight out and spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. Xia Lian's body suddenly tensed up. His face was gloomy, and he broke out in a cold sweat. Logically, he and Murong Chun should not be so relaxed, but for some reason he was attracted to her voice. He could not help but listen to her every word and even the sound of her breath. It was like listening to the voice of the emperor, beautiful beyond compare. If that punch was aimed at him, he would not be able to avoid it and would end up the same as Murong Chun. Bang! Murong Chun crashed into a tree and spat out another mouthful of blood. His face quickly turned pale. Xia Lian flew over and caught Murong Chun, who was sliding down the tree. He channeled to help him dispel the force of the punch. He felt a ball of flame burning in Murong Chun's body. When his inner energy got close, it was burned away in the blink of an eye. He could not move it at all. Divine Light Fist. He gritted his teeth and scoffed. Even if he had never seen the Divine Light Fist, he could still recall this name. Murong Chun's face was pale. He smiled bitterly and said, "I have to heal my injuries immediately. Help me." "Quickly," Xia Lian said. The two of them sat cross-legged under the tree and began channeling. Soon, white steam rose from the top of their heads. Lu Yunxin's long and narrow eyes were filled with a smile. She looked at the two of them, but did not continue to attack. She let them channel and heal their injuries. A gust of night wind blew, and her white robe fluttered. She looked like a fairy that wanted to ride the wind. The white veil covered her face and did not move with the wind. It was made of a strange material. Chu Li frowned and stared at her coldly. Lu Yunxin chuckled. "Zhuge, we will meet again. If you kill any more disciples of the Crouching Bull Mountain, I will go to the Li dynasty and kill the disciples of the Holy Church of Light. I will kill 10 of them." Chu Li said coldly. He knew that he could not keep Lu Yunxin. Lu Yunxin used Murong Chun and Xia Lian to threaten him. If he took care of her, she would kill Murong Chun and Xia Lian. "Hee, all right, go ahead and kill them." Lu Yunxin laughed. "It's better to kill them all." Chu Li frowned and stared at her. Lu Yunxin waved her hand. "Zhuge, we will meet again." Chapter 608. Chu Li stared at her back with a gloomy face. She was also a madwoman who did not care about the safety of the Holy Church of Light's disciples and allowed them to die. It looked like she harbored hatred towards the Holy Church of Light. However, he knew that this might not be true. The disciples of the Holy Church of Light could not be speculated with common sense because they viewed death as life. Their way of thinking was completely different from ordinary people, so he had to figure out their way of thinking. He stared thoughtfully in the direction where she had disappeared, trying to guess what she was thinking. Xia Lian slowly put down his palms. The white gas slowly returned to his hair roots, and his face became ruddy again. Murong Chun opened his eyes. The white gas on top of his head suddenly shrank and disappeared into Bai Hui. His face was still pale. Elder Morong, how is it? Chu Li asked. What a powerful divine light fist. Morong Chun shook his head and smiled bitterly. I've suppressed it for now. I'll slowly get rid of it when I get back. Let me take a look. Chu Li took a step forward and reached out his palm to feel his pulse. Morong Chun instinctively wanted to dodge, but Chu Li simply grabbed him. There was no way he could avoid it. A stream of inner breath entered his body and rushed into the ball of flames. The flames immediately began to weaken bit by bit, like a lamp that ran out of oil. The flames quickly disappeared and turned into a ball of strange inner strength. This ball of strange inner force instantly drilled out of his body. Morong Chun felt his body relax, and the feeling of weakness disappeared in an instant. Chu Li loosened his grip. What do you think? Morong Chun looked at him in admiration. Young lord, you're really impressive. The force of the divine light fist that he and Xia Lian were helpless against was easily removed by the young lord. The two of them seemed to be too weak. It was not that he and Xia Lian were weak. It was the young lord who was too strong. Chu Li said, try to avoid the divine light fist if you can. It's very difficult to deal with. What kind of martial arts did young master use? Cloud slashing palm. Chu Li said, it happens to be able to restrain the divine light fist. The cloud slashing treasure manual is indeed extraordinary. Morong Chun sighed. It was a pity that he didn't have the chance to practice it. No matter how generous the young master was, he wouldn't take it out for everyone to see. Chu Li glanced at him and smiled. Let's go. The power of the cloud slashing treasure manual was strong, but it was not as strong in the hands of others. The key to the cloud slashing treasure manual was one's mental strength. Only with a strong mental strength would one be able to display its might. When one's inner energy entered another person's body and devoured it, it was easy to enter, but difficult to withdraw it. Without a strong mental strength, one would not be able to withdraw it. The three of them turned around and walked back. Young lord, what is their motive? Morong Chun asked with a frown. Xia Lian was also full of doubts. He really could not figure out what Lu Yinxin's goal was. Chu Li said, I'll just ask the Hill Master. If the Hill Master could tell us, he would have told us a long time ago. Morong Chun sighed. Why can't the mountain chieftain tell me? Xia Lian frowned and said, could it be that there really is an affair? Morong Chun shook his head. I'm afraid it's not personal. What exactly does the Holy Church of Light want from us? He found it strange. The Holy Church of Light was far from what Crouching Bull Mountain could compare to. Their martial arts were much stronger than Crouching Bull Mountain's, and their surpassing state was also far better than Crouching Bull Mountain's. Other than that, what else could they ask for? Were they trying to make Crouching Bull Mountain yield and listen to them? Thinking of this, his heart skipped a beat. The Holy Church of Light was a sect of the Li dynasty. If they really listened to the Holy Church of Light, they would become traitors of the Ji dynasty. They would definitely be destroyed. However, if they did not yield to the Holy Church of Light, they would probably end up the same. His expression was uncertain. He frowned and did not say a word. The Holy Church of Light wanted to threaten them, to listen to them. If the young lord did not appear, Crouching Bull Mountain would probably have no other choice. They would either be destroyed immediately or in the future. Xia Lian quickly said, What did you think of? Tell me. He sighed and said, Could it be that they want us to yield? That's wishful thinking. Xia Lian chuckled. Even the Tempest Temple can't make us yield. Can the Holy Church of Light even dream about it? If they had a shred of rationality, they wouldn't do it. Morong Chun scoffed. Do you think they can think of it with common sense? Chu Li was deep in thought. Morong Chun's theory was slightly plausible. The Holy Church of Light had obtained the second half of the scripture of great light. Their ambition would probably grow as well. Once their ambition grew, the Li dynasty might not be able to contain them and would have to expand outwards. But this time, I had a great time killing. Xia Liyan chuckled. This is the first time I've had such a good time. Morong Chun smiled. After killing 6 of their masters, the Holy Church of Light should have been heavily injured. They should also understand that Crouching Bull Mountain was not a pushover. It was not something they could bully just because they wanted to. It's all thanks to you, young lord. Xia Liyan praised. Chu Li said, they won't give up. The next time they go down the mountain, let me know. I'll follow them. All right, then I'll have to trouble you, young lord. Morong Chun smiled. Chu Li lightly said, I can't just eat for free. I have to do something. As for the rest, don't bother me. I have to focus on my cultivation. Of course, of course. Morong Chun nodded. Early in the morning, Chu Li sat in Tianshu courtyard and had breakfast with Xiao Shi. What have you been busy with recently? Xiao Shi's moon-white gown was spotless and flawless. She picked up a snack and asked casually, I haven't seen you. Something happened. Chu Li took a sip of wine. Xiao Shi's bright eyes glanced over. Chu Li felt as if autumn water was splashing on his face. Personal matters. Is there anything you can't say? Xiao Shi scoffed. Chu Li laughed and nodded. All right, I'll tell you. He then told Xiao Shi about what happened in Crouching Bull Mountain. Xiao Shi listened with great interest. No wonder the Holy Church of Light hasn't gotten even with you. They're doing something else. They're quite ambitious. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. I don't know what they're planning. Are they planning to invade the great Ji dynasty and unify the martial arts world? Xiao Shi nodded. That might not be impossible. The 4 major sects won't let them get what they want. What if they're not afraid of the 4 major sects? How is that possible? What if they've already unified the martial arts world of the Li dynasty? Chu Li pondered. Elder Qin, come here for a moment. Chu Li said. His voice was not loud, as if he was talking to himself. Qin Jin and the other 3 were at the training field of the imperial residence of King, and Dong Qifei was there too. Yang Zongwen and the other 5 were at the secret guardians hall reading the dossiers. Qin Jin heard Chu Li's voice and turned to look. Their expressions were normal. Clearly, they did not hear him. He glided to the outside of Tianshu courtyard. Chu Li raised his voice. Elder Qin, please come in. Qin Jin slowly walked into Tianshu courtyard and closed fist saluted. Centurion, Chu Li said, I want to investigate the situation of the Li dynasty's martial arts world. What's the Holy Church of Light doing? Are there any big movements? Are they secretly controlling the Li dynasty's martial arts world? How long will it take to find out? Qin Jin thought for a while. The Secret Guardians Hall's information network and our own. 7 days should be enough. Chu Li nodded. All right, do it as soon as possible. There's no need to be too detailed. Don't send anyone to the Holy Church of Light. Yes. Qin Jin closed fist saluted. He turned and left. He called Feng Jing and the others to return to the Secret Guardians Hall. The May Air courtyard of the Secret Guardians Hall immediately moved. The 9 of them each had their own information network. Yang Zongwen and the others gathered information from the Secret Guardians Hall. After Chu Li gave the order, he continued to have breakfast with Xiao Shi. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat, and his expression changed. Chapter 609. Xiao Shi saw his expression change, and then disappeared. She knew something big had happened. She frowned and stood up, pacing around the Tianshu courtyard. The thing that made him feel something was probably the Saraira beads. There were only 2 or 3 people who had his Saraira beads. Did something happen to the High Duke's public house? She was not in the mood to eat and waved Yong-su away. Chu Li appeared in a waterside pavilion on the Snow Crescent Lake. His face was solemn. This was Suru's waterside pavilion. Under the bright morning sun, the pavilion was bright and gentle, warm and elegant. Li Hanyan's eyes were shut tight as she lay on the bed in a deep sleep. Suru sat by the bed, watching over her. Seeing Chu Li appear, Suru let out a long sigh of relief. Chu Li nodded and greeted her. He looked at Li Hanyan and felt her pulse. He frowned. Did she take the spirit blessing pill? His omniscient mirror could see inside and out. Feeling someone's pulse was an instinctive habit to cover up his divine power. What he saw made him furious. Her internal organs were severely injured, and her vitality was in a mess. If it wasn't for the spirit blessing pill, she would have died. There was also a ball of flame burning. Although it was suppressed in a corner, it was still burning her vitality. Suru nodded. She took 2 spirit blessing pills. Why isn't there anyone else? Chu Li turned to look. Suru said, I've come to take a look. Her injuries can only be nurtured slowly and healed by herself. No one else can help. How did she get injured? Chu Li scoffed. Divine Light Fist. He removed the Divine Light Fist's fist force from Li Hanyan's body. Li Hanyan's crescent cryptic was extremely een and cold. It could restrain the Divine Light Fist, but her cultivation level was too weak. It was like fire and water. Whoever was stronger would have the upper hand. Her internal organs were severely injured. A normal person would have died. Spiritual energy surged from all directions and entered Li Hanyan's body, nourishing her internal organs. Li Hanyan's inner energy started to circulate the minute pulse cleansing technique under Chu Li's interference. Suru said Sister Li couldn't stay in the valley and followed Master down the mountain. They were ambushed and both of them were injured. Thanks to the spirit blessing pill, they survived. Senior Shin was injured too. Chu Li frowned. He activated the omniscient mirror and saw Shen Inghu lying on the bed. She was the only one in the pavilion. Yes, Master's injuries were even more serious. After he took the spirit blessing pill, he still forced himself to bring junior sister Li out of the ambush and back to the pavilion. Hanyan is fine now. Let her rest well. I'll go visit Senior Shun, Chu Li said. Through the omniscient mirror, he saw that Shun Inghu's injuries had worsened and she was on the verge of death. Su Ru said, Master did not allow anyone to visit him. He said that he was in isolated cultivation. Chu Li furrowed his brows and shook his head. He disappeared in a flash and appeared in Shun Inghu's waterside pavilion in the next moment. Shun Inghu was in a state of unconsciousness. Her breathing was weak and hurried, and her pale face was flushed red. She was exceptionally beautiful, but she had a high fever. He reached out to touch Shun Inghu's wrist. Her skin was scorching hot, and her bones were cold. Her 5 viscera and 6 bowels had already begun to deteriorate, her meridians were severely damaged, and her vitality could no longer enter her body. Like a lamp without oil, it was about to be extinguished, especially with her meridians destroyed. Even if she could keep her life, her martial arts would be crippled. Chu Li scoffed. There was no one by her side. She was the one who chased him away. It was obvious that she had lost the will to live. Spiritual energy surged into Shun Inghu's body, nourishing her like rain after a long drought. Chu Li took out a needle box and moved the needles like they were flying. In the blink of an eye, she was covered in her beautiful body. Under the nourishment of spiritual energy, Shun Inghu slowly woke up. Her eyes were blurry. She murmured. Tianming. Chu was stunned. He looked into her mind and knew that she had mistaken him for someone else. Tianming. She raised her hand with difficulty. Chu reached out and touched her cold hand. It was delicate and soft, but it was bone-chilling. It was as if her bones were made of ice, emitting a piercing chill. You. Her eyes suddenly became clear. She smiled sadly and slowly let go of her hand. Chu said, Senior Shen. Shenning sighed. Why are you here? Did you meet the disciples of the Holy Church of Light? Chu said, You know, Divine Light Fist. Chu said, What happened? 6 disciples of the Holy Church of Light. Shenning laughed. I almost didn't make it back. First time meeting them? Chu asked. Shenning nodded lightly. I didn't think the Holy Church of Light would dare to come here. This place was not close to the north of the Li dynasty. It was the south of the Ji dynasty. It was far away from the Li dynasty. There were almost no disciples of the Holy Church of Light here. Chu said, They are all grandmasters. Yes, Shenning sighed. 6 grandmasters. Chu smiled. Senior, you were able to escape with your life. You are quite capable. Shenning smiled faintly. If it wasn't for Han Yan, I would have perished together with them. Among the 6 grandmasters, for were weaker than her, and 2 were on par with her. If she did not want to save Li Hanyan, she would not have been able to trigger such potential and escape. Chu sneered. How dare they? Shenning said, They must have something to rely on. 6 grandmasters are enough to destroy a second-rate faction. This time, they won't be able to return. Chu gritted his teeth. Thinking of Li Hanyan's injuries and Shenning's tragic state, his heart was filled with murderous intent. The pavilion master went to take revenge, but I stopped him. Shenning shook her head lightly. I'm afraid that they lured the tiger away from the mountain to deal with the disciples in the valley. They are probably far away now and can't be caught up. Chu nodded. Leave it to me. Shao-Chi doesn't know, right? Shenning smiled. What do you think? Chu smiled embarrassedly. He saw Shao-Chi through the omniscient mirror. She was sitting cross-legged by the lake, in the arcane realm like a jade statue. Her beautiful face was calm. A long sword was placed on her knees. She was motionless, as if she had become one with the clear lake water. Seeing that Shenning was exhausted, Chu said, Senior, rest. When you wake up, your injuries will be mostly healed. What kind of medical skill is this? Shenning asked. Her meridians were being nourished by a warm current and were slowly recovering. Her martial arts was saved. 9 transformation meridian reforming technique. Chu said, Remember to tell the pavilion master not to let the disciples out of the valley for a while. Lie low for a while. The Holy Church of Light may come again. Are they crazy? Shenning frowned. Chu said, Maybe they have other motives. I received news from the secret Guardians Hall that there are other sects that were assassinated by the Holy Church of Light. I don't know what their motive is. We have to wait and see. Anyway, don't let the disciples out of the valley. I will tell Senior Sister. Shenning nodded and slowly fell asleep. After an hour, Chu pulled out the needle and returned to Li Hanyan's bed. She was not awake yet, but her breathing was stable. Su-Ru said, Master? Chu said, She's fine now. Don't leave the valley for a while. This time, it's the disciples of the Holy Church of Light. They are all grandmasters. The Holy Church of Light. Su-Ru frowned. Chu said, Chief is about to enter the surpassing state, right? Su-Ru perfected her innate mastery. She was about to break through. Su-Ru said, Xueling is about to break through. How can I be lazy? Chu smiled. Chief, You have a strong foundation. It will be easier for you to break through. This time, the White Shroud Chief has to come out again. You want to go after those people? Suru was shocked. Chapter 610. Hold on. Suru opened the cupboard and took out a long box. She placed the box on the table and opened it. Inside was an antique long knife. She took out the long knife and passed it to Chu Li. Chu Li slowly reached out to take it. As soon as he held the handle, he felt a sense of heroism. Back then, when he fought alongside this knife, the scene of beheading people like cutting grass came to his mind. He felt an inexplicable connection with this knife. He pulled out the long knife. Suddenly, the blade was bright and cold. Ding! He flicked the blade with his finger, and the clear sound lingered. Suru took 2 steps back and sighed. This knife has killed too many people. The killing intent is too strong. She could feel an inexplicable coldness from the blade. She did not feel it when it was in the scabbard or in the box. Now that it was out of the scabbard, the killing intent seemed to surge out, and the room became colder. Chu Li waved the long knife. The killing intent is too strong. Next time, let's sink it into the crescent lake and let the lake water wash away its killing intent. Sounds good. Suru nodded. Chu Li's killing intent surged in his chest. The treasure knife seemed to be able to feel it as it trembled slightly. Are we leaving now? Suru asked. Chu Li nodded and reached out to touch his face. When he put his hand down, he had changed his face. He was handsome and his body was elongated. He suddenly grew taller. Only the long knife in his hand and his white robe did not change. Even though it was not Suru's first time seeing it, she still felt it was amazing. To train the bone shrinking technique to this stage, it was really mysterious. A soft moan was suddenly heard. The two turned to look. Li Hanyan was slowly waking up on the bed. She called out softly, "Water, water." Suru went forward and supported her back. She slowly lifted her up and picked up the teacup on the table. It was filled with warm water. She slowly brought it to her pale and cracked lips. Li Hanyan greedily drank 2 big mouthfuls and slowly opened her eyes. Her eyes lit up and she called out in disbelief, Brother Du?" Chu Li smiled warmly. "It's me." Li Hanyan struggled to sit up. Suru smiled and pushed her to sit up straight. She put 2 pillows on her back. Chu Li waved his hand. "Don't move around. You haven't fully recovered from your injuries." Li Hanyan felt a warm current flowing through her body, as if she was soaking in a hot spring. It was so comfortable that she wanted to fall asleep. Knowing that Big Brother Du was healing her, she sighed, "I thought I would never see Big Brother Du again." "Do you think you're going to die?" Chu Li laughed. Li Hanyan nodded lightly. This time, she had once again experienced death and was on the verge of despair. If her master hadn't risked his life to save her, she would have died. Even if her master risked his life, she felt that she wouldn't be able to survive after she came back. The darkness swallowed her like a tide. Before she fainted, she had a premonition that she would never wake up again. Before the darkness completely engulfed her, the biggest regret in her heart was that she could not see Brother Du again. She did not have the time to say goodbye to Brother Du Chu, Li said. "Consider yourself lucky this time. From now on, you have to calm down and cultivate your martial arts. You can only go out when your martial arts is strong enough so that you won't encounter something like this again." "Yes." Li Hanyan nodded obediently. "Since you're awake, channel your energy to heal yourself. I'll go out for a while and deal with those guys," Chu Li said. "Big Brother Du wants to kill them." Li Hanyan asked. Chu Li nodded. "I'll go too," Li Hanyan hurriedly said. "No," Ru hurriedly said. "You're so badly injured. Why are you going?" My injury is not a big deal, Li Hanyan hurriedly said. Su Ru said, he's going to kill people. What's there to see? Moreover, it's a dangerous battle. You'll only add to the chaos if you go. Big brother do. I want to see how they die with my own eyes. Li Hanyan pursed her lips and scoffed. Not only did those 6 guys want to kill us, but they also insulted Master. I must see how they die. Su Ru frowned, anger surging within her. Master was beautiful and gentle, yet they dared to insult her. They deserved to die. Chu Li pondered for a while and nodded. It's good that you go and see. You heal yourself first. I'll come back tomorrow. He had the intention to nurture Li Hanyan. She had an extremely high aptitude and could become a top-notch master in the future. It would be beneficial for her to gain more experience now. Now that his knowledge of martial arts was becoming more and more profound, he gradually understood that many masters found it difficult to break through realms because they lacked this kind of experience. Thank you. Big brother do my injury will definitely be healed tomorrow. Li Hanyan beamed and said excitedly. Chu Li smiled. Don't be too greedy and rush ahead. You'll hurt yourself instead. Understood. Li Hanyan nodded vigorously. Chu Li looked at Su Ru. Then I'll come back tomorrow. Help her heal. All right. Su Ru could only agree. She felt that there was nothing to see in killing people. However, watching the people who insulted Master get killed was delightful. It was understandable that Li Hanyan wanted to go. If Chu Li did not find it troublesome, she would not say anything. When Chu Li returned to Tianshu courtyard, Xiaoshi was pacing in the courtyard. As soon as she saw him, Xiaoshi quickly went up to him. What happened? Chu Li said, someone at Snow Lunar Pavilion was seriously injured and almost lost her life. Fortunately, I went. If he did not go, Li Hanyan would be fine. With the spirit blessing pill, she could slowly recover. However, Shen Yinghu would die. It was a sin to think that the charming and graceful Shen Yinghu would become a corpse. Little sister? Xiaoshi asked. Chu Li shook his head. Third lady's master. What's going on? Sit down and talk. Chu Li came to the stone table and sat down. Xiaoshi glared at him in annoyance and sat opposite him. Her eyes that were as deep as a lake stared at him. Chu Li told her about the incident. It's the Holy Church of Light again, Xiaoshi said hatefully. Looks like they really want to unify the martial arts world of the Ji dynasty. Chu Li said, let's wait and see. That might not be the case. He could not determine the goal of the Holy Church of Light. He needed to investigate. If the Holy Church of Light did not do anything big in the Li dynasty, they would not unify the martial arts world of the Ji dynasty. It was noon the next day. The sun was bright. It was the perfect weather to kill. Chu Li flashed to Snow Lunar Pavilion. When he stepped into Su Ru's waterside pavilion, he had already transformed into dew foam. He saw Xiao Qi in the omniscient mirror. She was still sitting by the lake like a jade statue. She did not move and blended into the lake. He felt sweet when he saw her. The entire Snow Lunar Pavilion felt especially close to her because she was there. Shen Yinghu was channeling on the bed. Her breathing was even. Her injuries had stabilized, and she could slowly recover. Li Hanyan's injuries were much better. She could already channel to fight. It was obvious that she did not sleep the whole night. She had been channeling to heal. Chu Li took the treasure knife from Su Ru. He held Li Hanyan's sleeve and flew away. The two left Snow Lunar Pavilion. After going down the mountain, they went straight to a small town 20 miles away. They came to a restaurant in the town. The restaurant's flag fluttered in the wind. The words Tempest Restaurant could be seen in half of the town. Lee Hanyon's face was covered with a white veil, concealing her beautiful features. She was dressed in a pink gown, looking graceful and graceful. Du Feng was handsome, his white robe fluttering in the wind, with a long knife at his waist. They were indeed a perfect match. As soon as they stepped into the restaurant, they attracted everyone's attention. There were 6 middle-aged men sitting at a table by the window on the 3rd floor. The 2 tables were joined together. They were talking with their heads lowered. They were all dressed in white, spotless. When they saw the 2, they turned to look at them and continued talking. 2 of the middle-aged men stared at Lee Hanyan thoughtfully. They seemed to have recognized her. Li sat at the table next to them. He ordered a pot of wine and 2 dishes to go with it. "The patrol is coming today, right?" a handsome middle-aged man asked. Chapter 6:11. P.S. Update complete. I can't take it anymore after the explosion. I have a splitting headache. I'm really sorry. Sigh. Someone let out a long sigh. I didn't expect that Beauty to be so ruthless. She's even more ruthless than us when it comes to risking her life. Women are the most vicious. There are all kinds of people in this world. Actually, we are also at fault. The valiant middle-aged man shook his head and said, "You should have killed the little one. That way, the big Beauty wouldn't have run away and would have risked her life." Old Goo, actually, no one would have thought of this. Another handsome middle-aged man shook his head. Originally, we wanted to keep the young one to restrain her and distract her so that she couldn't escape. Who would have thought that she would run so fast with the young one? Snow Lunar Pavilion's light body technique is this powerful. It must be her unique qigong. Sai, we're 6 men, but we can't even deal with 2 weak girls. One of them is even an innate. How shameful. Even a horse stumbles, and so does a man. It's inevitable. You should tell that to the patrol envoy. Let's see if she'll forgive you or not. The inspector's methods. The valiant middle-aged man shook his head and sighed. Everyone's faces darkened. He suddenly raised his head to look at Li and Li Hanyan, frowning. Li slowly drank his wine. His expression relaxed. Li Hanyan's eyelids drooped slightly as if she was dozing off, but she was actually channeling to heal her injuries. Li nourished her body with the spiritual force of heaven and earth, helping her channel the minute pulse cleansing technique. Her injuries were healing continuously. She lowered her eyes because she didn't want them to notice the hatred in her eyes. She found that Brother Du was not in a hurry to kill them. Instead, he sat on the side and listened to their conversation. Presumably, he wanted to find out their origins and intentions. She did not want to ruin it. "Miss, can you take off your veil?" The valiant middle-aged man raised his voice. Li turned to look at him and asked, "What?" The valiant middle-aged man calmly looked at him and slowly said, "I want to see that lady's face." Li shook his head. "How rude." The valiant middle-aged man laughed and looked at his 5 companions. "Old Goo, what are you doing?" Someone said unhappily, "Do you still have such thoughts at a time like this? Don't you think this lady looks familiar?" The valiant man pointed at Li Hanyan. The 5 of them stared at Li Hanyan, sizing her up thoughtfully. A middle-aged man nodded. "She does look familiar. Could she be the little Beauty from yesterday?" "That's her," the valiant-looking middle-aged man said. "It can't be?" Someone retorted and laughed. "Old Goo, you must be seeing things. Look at how badly injured that little Beauty is. Even if she doesn't die when she gets back, she'll be crippled. How can she still be sitting here alive and kicking?" "That's true." Everyone nodded in agreement. "Humph, it's obviously that girl." The valiant middle-aged man scoffed. "I believe that my eyes are not mistaken. Chu asked in a deep voice. Who are you? How rude. How arrogant. He. The valiant middle-aged man laughed. It's better if you don't know our identities. Chu said, So you're saying that you can't see it? How dare you be so arrogant? Brat, are you tired of living? The valiant middle-aged man said impatiently. If you don't want to die, then obediently take off that girl's veil. We'll just take a look, not covet her beauty. Chu shook his head. Impossible. Then you're courting death. The valiant middle-aged man's face darkened, and he said coldly, You can either die or take off your veil. Choose. Both of you will die, Chu said lightly. Ha ha. Everyone laughed. They could sense that Chu was only at the innate mastery's boundary, and so was their companion. If these two were to explore the martial arts world, they could go anywhere in the world. After all, grandmasters were rare as long as they did not go to places like the fairies' capital. They were all grandmasters. This brat and the girl should have sensed it, but they were still so bold. It could only be said that they were used to being arrogant and could not lower their heads. People like them were not suitable to explore the martial arts world. They would die sooner or later. Brat, I'll send you on your way. The valiant middle-aged man said coldly, Watch my fist. As soon as he said that, he punched the air. Divine light fist. The two tables were only 3 to 4 steps apart, and the fist energy instantly reached Chu. The heavenly demonic orb fell to his precordium, and an endless amount of energy instantly surged through his body. Chu stood up and took a step towards the valiant middle-aged man, and swung his blade to meet the divine light fist. A silver stripe swept through the fist energy, passing through the neck of the valiant middle-aged man and the person beside him, and then returned to Chu's waist. The people felt that the building was suddenly lit up, and then it quickly dimmed. The cold air hit them in the face, and they could not help but shiver. TSS. In the sound of ripping cloth, 2 heads flew, and then fell to the ground and rolled far away. The 2 bodies were still sitting straight on the chairs, and there was no blood. The blade was like ice, and it instantly sealed the wound so that no blood could be seen. Elder Gu, Elder Pang. The 4 of them cried out, and then endless killing intent surged. Kill! They shouted, and without hesitation they pounced on Chu. Murder! Only then did the people react, and they screamed and ran away. The 3rd floor was a mess, and soon there was no one else. If it was a fight between ordinary martial artists, they would watch the show, but seeing 2 heads fly, it was extremely cruel, and it gave them a strong impact. They almost broke down, and only knew how to scream and run. Chu transformed the 7 forms of divine blade into the 7 forms of godly sword. In the process, his understanding of the 7 forms of divine blade became deeper, and it was far better than before. After learning the Cloud slashing sword technique, he tried to integrate the Cloud slashing sword technique into the 7 forms of godly sword, and also into the 7 forms of divine blade. Although he was not able to integrate it completely, he had already seen some results. The power of the 7 forms of divine blade was stronger, and the speed of the blade was extremely fast, but it looked slow, like a waterfall slowly passing in front of him. In addition, he used the heavenly demonic power and turned into a heavenly demon, so his strength was endless, and the speed of the blade was even faster. The 4 of them used the divine light fist, and it was so close that he could not avoid it. Chu scoffed and did not dodge. He only swung his blade, and the treasure blade once again drew a silver stripe. TSS. Another sound of ripping cloth was heard, and a head flew up and then rolled on the floor. Bam! The headless body fell straight to the ground. Elder Meng. The 3 of them cried out in grief. Their divine light fist did not seem to have any power when it landed on his body. It was as if he did not feel anything, and neither did he dodge, nor did he retreat. The divine light fist was the top fist technique in the martial arts world. It was powerful, and it was always successful. It was their main martial art, and they had never encountered such a situation. They were angry and surprised. Kill! The three of them looked at each other, and suddenly took 2 steps back, and punched at the same time. The fist force of the 3 divine light fist merged in the air, and its speed suddenly increased, instantly hitting Chu Li. Bam! Chu Li slid a few steps back, but his expression was normal. The fist force drilled into his body like a raging flame and wanted to burn him, but it was immediately enveloped by his inner energy, and it kept devouring it, and the flames quickly weakened. Chu Li took a step forward and approached the 3 of them. The treasure blade once again turned into a silver stripe, and it slashed at the 3 of them, ready to behead them. Ding! A crisp sound was heard. Suddenly, a sword stabbed the long blade, and the long blade shook. The tip of the sword gently stabbed, but it turned into a huge force that collided with the blade. Chu Li's blade slowed down, and the 3 of them took a step back to avoid it. They were so shocked that they broke out in a cold sweat. They could not dodge in time, and could only watch as the long blade slashed at them. This blade technique was too evil. Chu Li took a step back, and in front of him stood a woman in a snow-white dress. She had a graceful figure, and a white veil covered her face. She held a soft sword in her hand, and it trembled like a spirit snake. It was hard to imagine that such a powerful force just now came from this soft sword. Chapter 6:12. Patrol. The 3 middle-aged men, closed fist saluted. Lu Yunxin stared at Chu Li. Go kill that little girl. Yes. The 3 of them replied in a low voice. Divine light fist punched towards Li Hanyan. Li Hanyan snorted and moved her chair a table's distance away to avoid the divine light fist. At the same time they punched, Chu Li's left hand under his sleeve silently shot out a petrifying finger. Poof! A soft sound was heard. One of the middle-aged men stopped moving. Chu Li stepped in front of him, and a silver stripe slashed his neck. His head flew off. Ding! The soft sword stabbed over, but it was too late. The long knife only reached after the neck. The knife and sword clashed with a clear sound. Chu Li's left hand shot out another petrifying finger, while the other 2 middle-aged men were stunned. Poof! The other middle-aged man's body froze. Chu Li took a step forward and swung the long knife across his neck, decapitating him. A cold glint flashed in Lu Yunxin's long and narrow eyes. She flew towards Li Hanyan and stabbed out with her soft sword, like a white rainbow piercing the sun. It drew a beautiful arc in the sky, graceful and light like a fairy. Chu Li acted as if he did not see her move, and did not care about Li Hanyan's safety. As he swung his knife, he shot out another petrifying finger. The petrifying finger consumed a lot of inner energy. Each time it consumed half of his inner energy and could not be used continuously. Chu Li's life and death scripture could make up for this weakness. Before his inner energy disappeared, the turbulent spiritual energy had already drilled in and instantly circled around his body, turning into pure inner energy. At this time, the petrifying finger had just been used, and the inner energy had just replenished the void. He could immediately use another petrifying finger. He needed both the life and death scripture and the ability to multitask to achieve this. The last middle-aged man secretly felt lucky that he was not coming for him. Before the lucky thought disappeared, his body froze. His whole body was bound, and he could not move. Then, a bright flash of the knife reflected in his eyes. It was a vast expanse of whiteness. When he could see clearly, the The scenery in front of him shook violently and inverted. It was as if he had flipped over. Darkness surged in, and he no longer knew. Li Hanyan leaped lightly and used a strange footwork to evade the sword that was like a fairy flying from the heavens. Chu Li's long blade had already slashed across the neck of the last middle-aged man. Lu Yunxin's sword missed, and the body of the sword suddenly softened. Then it straightened again, like a venomous snake coming out of its hole, stabbing out from an unexpected angle. It was extremely fast. Li Hanyan had barely managed to dodge the first strike. She was powerless to dodge the second strike, which was both strange and fast. Ding! A silver waterfall struck the tip of the sword. The tip of the sword immediately softened, as if a snake had been hit in its weak spot. Lu Yunxin secretly thought that it was a pity that her wishful thinking had failed. Usually, this kind of action was effective, attacking the other party's vital points, causing the other party to lose sight of the other, leading the other party by the nose. This time, it failed. The man did not seem to care about the girl's life at all. Now, it seemed that he was confident in the girl's movement technique and knew that she could dodge his sword. He took advantage of this opportunity to kill those 3 pieces of trash. Ding, 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 ding. Rays of crescent-shaped cold light shot towards Lu Yunxin. Lu Yun's heart softened. His sword was straight as a pen. He kept stabbing at the saber's edge as he kept retreating. The copious power that came from the saber surprised her. Her soft sword could not even dissolve this brutal and overbearing power. She could not block the force of the saber that rushed into her body. Ding, 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 ding. Chu Li's saber was like lightning. It was as powerful as thunder, pressuring Lu Yunxin to the point that she could not breathe. This violent flash of the saber gave her an illusion. It was as if she was under a thunderbolt. The heavenly force was as vast as hell. She could only tremble and obediently submit. There was no other choice. Chu Li pressed forward step by step. The flash of the saber was like lightning. Lu Yunxin kept retreating. The tip of her sword was weak, but it did not fall. It could always hit the saber accurately. The 2 of them, one advancing and one retreating, quickly forced Lu Yunxin into a corner. What is the Holy Church of Light trying to do? Chu Li said in a low voice as he swung his saber. Lu Yunxin's long and narrow eyes were unmoved. She stared at the saber. She could not afford to be distracted for even a moment. Otherwise, her head would be in danger. Chu Li scoffed, sneaky. Is this how the Holy Church of Light acts? Lu Yunxin still swung her sword silently. Her arm was already sore and numb. She might not be able to last more than a few moves. Ding! Lu Yunxin suddenly swung her sword at a sneakily attacking finger force. Her soft sword suddenly trembled. Her inner energy flow was frozen by the petrifying finger. Chu Li's saber was in front of her in an instant. Lu Yunxin lowered her body. Like a swimming fish, she slid more than 10 meters across the floor and shot towards Li Hanyan. Chu Li scoffed. He took a step towards Li Hanyan and swung his saber again. Lu Yunxin dodged the saber helplessly. Her arm was sore and numb. She did not have the strength to fight him. Chu Li sneered. Tell me, and I'll spare your life. Humph, spare my life? Lu Yunxin laughed softly. Her laughter was filled with disdain. She threw a divine light fist at Li Hanyan. Chu Li reached out his hand to block. The divine light fist collided with his left palm. Bang! A muffled sound was heard. A strong wind surged like a gale blowing into the restaurant. Lu Yunxin scoffed. I'll look for you next time. As soon as she finished speaking, she flew out through the window like a flying swallow. Chu Li squinted his eyes as he watched her fly away. He disappeared in a flash and appeared above her the next moment. He had already calculated her trajectory and swung his saber. The cold glint on the saber was like lightning. It was magnificent. This saber was a charged blow. It was extraordinarily powerful. Ding! Lu Yunxin reluctantly swung her sword to block it. She was immediately sent flying, her white robe fluttering. Ding! The soft sword fell from her hand. Lu Yunxin stretched her body in the air. Her breath returned to normal. Her heart was palpitating. She did not expect Chu Li's saber to be so powerful. It was 2 times stronger than before. It was truly terrifying. Chu Li took a step in front of her and swung his saber again. This time, she did not have her soft sword. Her body shrank, turned, and shot out in a different direction. A ball of flame burned in her body. Her body technique suddenly sped up and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Chu Li waved his hand, and the soft sword on the ground flew into his hand. Li Hanyan floated over and smiled. "Big brother, do." Chu Li said, "After her." "Can you kill her?" Li Hanyan asked. Chu Li shook his head. "I'll try." He finally met a normal disciple of the Holy Church of Light. She used a secret skill. She did not crazily attack him to perish together. Instead, she turned to escape. She cherished her life. It was too rare. He was not afraid of people who cherished their lives. He was afraid of those lunatics who were not afraid of death. He held the soft sword in his left hand and held Li Hanyan's wrist with his right hand through the sleeves. Suddenly they disappeared. Lu Yunxin was like a wisp of smoke. The scenery in front of her retreated quickly. A ball of flame was burning in her body. There was also a raging fire burning in her heart. If it was not for fulfilling the saint's order, she would have perished together with that guy. Where did such a powerful guy come from? His saber technique was the best. She was extremely confident in her swordsmanship. However, under the violent light of his saber, it was so insignificant. Woo! A silver stripe appeared in front of her, cutting off her escape route. She gritted her teeth and sped up again. She escaped when the light of the saber reached her. The flames in her body burned even more. She estimated that she had lost 5 years of her life. Chu Li furrowed his brows and stopped, not going after her. Li Hanyan said excitedly. Chu Li shook his head. "There's no rush. Let's go back first." "We're going back now." Li Hanyan was not satisfied. "Let's go." Chu Li grabbed her wrist through the sleeves and fluttered away. The two of them returned to the snow lunar pavilion soundlessly without alerting anyone. He was satisfied this time. He killed another 6 people. It was a huge loss to the Holy Church of Light. Even if the Holy Church of Light was as powerful as the Tempest Temple, it was impossible for them to have as many grandmasters as they wanted. The death of 9 was probably a huge loss to them. He had also vented his anger. Li Hanyan grabbed Suru and described excitedly. She was in high spirits, as if she was the one who did it. Chu Li left immediately and suddenly appeared in a forest. He looked around and saw Lu Yunxin through the omniscient mirror. She was sitting cross-legged under a pine tree, quietly healing herself. The white veil on her face had been taken off. Chapter 613. He stood a mile away and focused on using the omniscient mirror to look into her mind. There was a giant Buddha floating in the void of her mind, shining brightly and compassionately. At first sight, one would have the urge to convert and become devout. This was Mahavairocana, the one who cultivated the great light scripture. Mahavairocana's body glowed with purplish golden light. His hands formed a seal, and his mouth seemed to be chanting Buddhist scriptures. Only his mouth moved, but no sound came out. There seemed to be an invisible force descending from the void and entering her body to make up for her weakness. It was extremely fast. Chu Li was amazed. This great light scripture was indeed worthy of its reputation. After using his heavenly demonic power, he felt extremely hungry and slightly weak. He wanted to eat both cows and go to Spirit Crane's Peak to find a fruit to eat. If not for Spirit Crane's Peak, the sequelae of the heavenly demonic power would last for a few days. No matter how much he ate, he would not be able to alleviate the hunger and weakness. The great light scripture could heal her weakness so quickly. It was not inferior to the heavenly demonic power. He did not know if the great light scripture came from beyond the heavens like his heavenly demonic power, but it was definitely a divine power that could reach the enlightened master. He finally had time to slowly look at Lu Yunxin's appearance. Red lips, a delicate and beautiful face, long and narrow eyes, charming and charming. She was truly a stunner. Men who saw her would have a strong impulse. No wonder she covered her face. It was not suitable to show it, as it would damage her dignity. Men who saw her would not feel fear, only a strong desire to conquer. They would want to press her under their bodies and bully her. Lu Yunxin's white veil was neatly folded at the side. It was obvious that she treasured it. The original soft sword had fallen into Chu Li's hands. Chu Li squinted his eyes. He was not in a hurry to move. He only looked at her Mahavarokana in his mind. He wanted to imprint this Mahavarokana so that he could cultivate the great light scripture in the future. Unfortunately, he tried hard but realized that he could not imprint it in his mind. It was like a reflection in the mirror. If he tried hard to imprint it, it would turn into nothingness. After a while, it was still in vain. He remembered that when he secretly learned the Azura power technique, it was much easier to visualize Azura. Could it be that this great light scripture was better than the Azura power technique? Since he could not learn it, Chu Li gave up. He would slowly find a way in the future. Moreover, he had the heavenly demonic power, so it was not necessary for him to cultivate the scripture of great light. He disappeared in a flash and appeared in front of Lu Yunxin in the next moment. He reached out to pick up the white veil and took 2 feet away. With one step, Lu Yunxin widened her eyes and stared at him in shock. What treasure is this? Chu Li smiled as he shook the white veil and looked at Lu Yunxin. The white muslin felt as light as a feather in his hand, yet it hung down smoothly without the slightest feeling of floating. It was like a curtain of water hanging down, cool and comfortable. Lu Yunxin casually glanced at Bai Sha and lightly said, "Who exactly are you?" She had never heard of the name Du Feng, and it was impossible for such an expert to be nameless. Now that Chu Li could see through her thoughts, he knew that she valued this white veil a lot. It was a treasure given to her by the saint to calm her mind and not be disturbed by external things. Wearing this white veil while cultivating could quickly calm the mind and enter a deeper state of concentration, greatly increasing the effect of cultivation and increasing the speed of cultivation. She was afraid that she would vomit blood just now, so she carefully took it off. She did not expect Chu Li to take advantage of the loophole and snatch it away. She could not show that she treasured it, or she would be threatened by this guy. This thing was really useless to men, and it was a personal item. If she gave it to someone else, they would despise it. If she did not treasure it, he might just throw it aside in the end. Chu Li smiled. "Du Feng, what is the Holy Church of Light doing in the Ji dynasty?" "That's none of your business, right?" Lu Yunxin lightly smiled and casually said, "Does young master Do really want to provoke the Holy Church of Light?" Chu Li frowned and found the answer in her mind, but he became more and more confused. "I've already killed him. I've provoked him even if I don't want to." Chu Li shook his head and smiled. You're not going to say that if I stop now, our grudges will be written off and you won't pursue my crime of murder anymore, right? That's right, Lu Yunxin said. Only I know that you killed him. If I don't tell anyone else, the Holy Church won't know either. Then who killed him? I'll find someone to take the blame. Lu Yunxin lightly said, Young Master Du, don't you want to be a friend of the Holy Church? What friend? Chu Li curiously asked. Lu Yunxin lightly stretched her waist. Her full chest lightly trembled. Her voice became more gentle and sweet. As a high official of the Holy Church of Light, we don't need you to do anything to harm the great Ji dynasty. On the contrary, you're going to deal with the martial arts masters of the Li dynasty. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Lu Yunxin's voice became more gentle. As a martial artist of the great Ji dynasty, you're very hostile towards the martial arts of the Li dynasty, right? Killing the martial arts masters of the Li dynasty, not only will you contribute to the great Ji dynasty, but you'll also be rewarded by the Holy Church. Killing two birds with one stone, isn't that great? Then I won't kill the martial arts masters of the Ji dynasty. Chu Li lightly said, Will you change your mind later and force me to kill the martial arts masters of the Ji dynasty? That will never happen. Lu Yunxin shook her head and said, The high officials are the precious strength of our holy church. Why would we force them to leave? This is definitely not the way the Holy Church does things. Becoming a high official of the Holy Church will only make your life more comfortable and smooth. You'll get to enjoy things you could never imagine before. You'll come into contact with higher-level divine arts and antique studies. The Holy Church's rewards include these antique studies and divine arts, even the antique studies of the Tempest Temple. Chu Li was deep in thought. Lu Yunxin said, What does young Master Du want? Do you really have the antique studies of the Tempest Temple? Chu Li frowned. Lu Yunxin chuckled. Which antique study do you want, young Master Du? Perishable touch, Chu Li said. Lu Yunxin pondered for a moment, then shook her head and said, All right, we don't have this antique study. Perishable touch is the top antique study of the Tempest Temple. If it's the sentient menace, we do have it, but only the first few levels. The antique studies of the Tempest Temple require a deep dermic base cultivation. Normal people can't cultivate it, so we don't have many. What about the antique studies of the Amethyst Mountain? We don't have the Shadow Thunder Palm or Heaven's Thunder Palm, but we do have the Phantom Skill, Lu Yunxin said. The antique studies of the Amethyst Mountain also require a unique aptitude. Normal people can't cultivate it, let alone the Titanium Temple. However, there aren't many martial arts studies of the four major sects of the Ji dynasty. The Holy Church has quite a few martial arts studies of the four major sects of the Li dynasty, including the Flaming Sun sect's Flaming Sun Divine Technique. Our Holy Church has the first 6 levels. Flaming Sun Divine Technique. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. He had personally subdued the Flaming Sun Palm, Luo Feng. He had also plucked the Flaming Sun Grass, but he did not know about the Flaming Sun Divine Technique. Could it be that the Flaming Sun Palm and the Flaming Sun Divine Technique were related? Could it be that Luo Feng was from the Li dynasty? He then denied it. There was no problem with Luo Feng's identity. It was very likely that the Flaming Sun Palm was the antique study of the Flaming Sun sect, and it was passed down. Lu Yunxin said, The Li dynasty also has 4 major sects, similar to the Ji dynasty. Other than the Holy Church, there's also the Flaming Sun sect, Tian Luo sect, and White Tiger sect. The 4 major sects are much stronger than the 4 major sects of the Ji dynasty. Chu Li smiled. Lu Yunxin said, Young Master Du, you don't believe me? If that's the case, how can they be so obedient? Chapter 614. Chu Li said, If I become a high official, I'll have to deal with them, right? Yes. Lu Yunxin nodded and sighed. The four major sects are not too far apart in terms of strength. However, our church is prosperous and has many geniuses. That's why we can suppress the major sections. Unfortunately, the people of the martial arts world are wild and untamed. It's hard for them to be obedient. We have to suppress them from time to time. Then why are you looking for the martial arts of the Ji dynasty's martial arts world? Chu Li asked. He found it in Lu Yunxin's mind and finally knew her purpose. She wanted to force Crouching Bull Mountain to hand over their heart technique and Snow Lunar Pavilion to hand over their heart technique. Lu Yunxin was stunned. She looked at him with her charming eyes. She did not expect him to see through her purpose. She thought that she hid it well. Others did not know, and those who knew would not reveal it. Which faction would tell others that their martial arts and antique studies had been forced to be passed on to others? She thought about it and shook her head. Young Master Du must want to step into the enlightened mastery's boundary? Unfortunately, there's no way to break through. The bishop is looking for these secret manuals to break through the enlightened mastery's boundary. Your church's great light scripture is an enlightened mastery's martial arts. You just need to cultivate it to the ultimate level. Why are you looking for other secret manuals? Chu Li asked curiously. Lu Yunxin said, using martial arts to achieve one's path, gathering the essence of the world's martial arts and understanding the path of martial arts. Only then can one cultivate the enlightened mastery's martial arts to the ultimate level. The Ji dynasty's Tempest Temple has an enlightened master because of the Tempest Temple's rich martial arts and the blessing of Buddhism. Chu Li frowned and shook his head. The Tempest Temple had an enlightened master, not because they cultivated the enlightened mastery's antique study, but because they were the best in the world and became an enlightened master. However, he would not say it out loud. He smiled. Isn't your bishop an enlightened master? Of course he is. Lu Yunxin scoffed, but the Holy Church cannot only have one enlightened master. Chu Li came to a sudden realization and smiled. How bold of you! The bishop of the Holy Church of Light must be the Li dynasty's #1 master. He did not cultivate the great light scripture to the extreme because it was incomplete. However, he could rely on the incomplete great light scripture to become the Li dynasty's #1 master, which was terrifying. The great light scripture was terrifying and its power was shocking. The bishop of the Holy Church was also terrifying. However, the divine God's path that Lu Yunxin mentioned was worth pondering. Wanting to cultivate a heavenly deity's martial arts to the extreme was probably even more difficult than becoming the #1 in the world. Learning the strengths of all the martial arts in the world and finding one's own path of martial arts was one path. The Holy Church of Light had sent a group of powerhouses to the Ji dynasty. They were taking a huge risk, so they must not be joking. The rapid advancement of the heavenly demonic power depended on external forces, but a lot of accumulation was needed to advance from the 5th to the 6th level. It was hard to imagine how daunting it would be to advance from the 6th to the 7th, or even from the 7th to the 8th, and from the 8th to the 9th level. Even if one was beaten up by top-notch masters all day long, it would be hopeless for the rest of his life. It was an impossible goal to cultivate the heavenly demonic power to level 9 or even complete mastery. The path pointed out by the bishop of the Holy Church of Light was worth a try. Enlightened mastery's boundary. No matter what, I must achieve it as soon as possible. Firstly, I must do it before Shao Qi. And secondly, I must kill King and must be killed. But the emperor was like a sword hanging above his head, ready to fall at any time. This made him feel extremely aggrieved. Thinking about this, Chu Li smiled. You told me this. If I don't agree, I won't be able to live? If young Master Du doesn't agree, I can't do anything about it. Lu Yunxin smiled. Chu Li shook his head. Since I killed your powerhouses, and I know things that I shouldn't know, of course, I have to silence them. It's okay for young Master Du to know this. Lu Yunxin shook her head. But young Master Du, you killed 6 of our powerhouses. We won't just let it go. You should know the Holy Church's way of doing things. We won't let anyone bully us. We must return the favor. Chu Li pondered. How about this? I'll think about it. 1 month later today, I'll go to Green Mountain Town. 1 month? Then I'll wait for young Master Du's news. Lu Yunxin pointed at the white veil on Chu Li's hand. Can you return that to me? Chu Li shook his head and smiled. I'll keep it. Lu Yunxin frowned and stared at him in dissatisfaction. She became even more charming. Young Master Du, even if you become a high official, your position is almost the same as mine. Don't have any improper thoughts. Chu Li smiled. I have the right to pursue you, don't I? Then young Master Du should be prepared. There are many people who want to pursue me. Lu Yunxin pursed her lips and smiled. Although young Master Du is talented and has excellent swordsmanship, you may not have the upper hand. Then I'll have to try. Chu Li smiled and carefully kept the white veil in his arms. He smiled and closed fist saluted. He took a few steps and disappeared from Lu Yunxin's sight. The smile on Lu Yunxin's face gradually disappeared and slowly turned cold. This damn Dufeng, he took the veil away. Could it be that he saw the value of the veil? However, this Dufeng's swordsmanship and light body technique were really top-notch. If she could pull him into the Holy Church, it would be a great merit. By then, forget about 1 veil. Even if it was 10, the saint would still reward her. The only thing that was hard to determine was whether he would agree or not. As for the 6 people who died, 6 of them could not compare to 1 Dufeng. Pulling Dufeng into the Holy Church was already a win. She could just say that they did not do their job well and were killed by the people of Snow Lunar Pavilion. The dead could not testify anyway. Thinking of this, she turned and fluttered away. She wanted to use her connections in the Holy Church to find out who this Dufeng was and why he would stand up for Snow Lunar Pavilion. With such swordsmanship, he was definitely not a nobody. When Chu Li returned to Snow Lunar Pavilion, Su Ru looked helpless. Li Hanyan was still in high spirits, vividly demonstrating Chu Li's every move. Her opponent's reflexes and moves, on the other hand, were flawless. Seeing that Chu Li had returned, Su Ru felt as if she had been pardoned. She quickly stood up and asked, "Did you kill him?" Chu Li shook his head. "I couldn't." "Don't tell me you let him go because of the beauty?" Su Ru's beautiful face showed a faint smile. Chu Li gave her a sidelong glance. "Big brother Du, when will my martial arts be like hers?" Li Hanyan said enviously. As she spoke, she picked up the soft sword on the table and waved it. The blade was straight and made a chi-chi sound. Chu Li smiled. "You can catch up to her." Li Hanyan had reached the innate mastery's boundary in such a short time. She was indeed a martial arts prodigy. The speed of her advancement was astonishing. Li Hanyan scoffed. "I must defeat her." "Then go and heal yourself. Don't rush to cultivate," Chu Li said. "All right." Li Hanyan nodded knowingly and left Su Ru's waterside pavilion. She knew that Chu Li and Su Ru had something to talk about. Su Ru saw that Chu Li wanted to say something, but hesitated. She said directly, "Lady Xiao hasn't come out of isolation. Master said that her state of mind has stabilized, and her advancement is very fast." Chu Li let out a sigh of relief and slowly nodded. Su Ru said, "You and Lady Xiao." She finally shook her head. She did not know what would happen between the two. They clearly liked each other, but could only separate. They clearly missed each other, but had to try hard to forget each other. This kind of feeling was not something an outsider could understand. Chu Li did not show it and buried it in his heart. It must be because the pain was deeper. Chu Li asked, "What about Xueling and the others?" Master said that they have accumulated a lot. It should be easy for them to break through. Su Ru smiled. "Our public house has 2 more grandmasters." Chu Li smiled. "When Chief returns, you will realize that the public house is not the same as before." Su Ru sighed. "If Lady Xiao doesn't go back, I don't plan to go back." Chu Li nodded slowly. "That's good too." Chapter 6:15. Chu Li smiled. "It's time to go to the Outland." Su Ru rolled her eyes at him. "I'm not like you guys. I might not succeed this time." Chu Li smiled. "Chief, your foundation is deeper. It should be fine." "I hope so." Su Ru scoffed. While Chu Li was talking in Snow Lunar Pavilion, Fei Yuan was meditating in the meditation room. His posture was straight, and his face was solemn. Suddenly, soft footsteps were heard. A young novice monk came outside the room and said softly, "Masters Junior, Masters Junior." Fei Yuan opened his eyes and said calmly, "What's the matter?" "Master has asked for you." The young novice monk said. Fa Yuan said slowly, All right, I understand. He slowly got off the couch, rubbed his knees, tidied up his gray robe, and walked out of the meditation room. After leaving the meditation room, he walked west, passed through a meditation room, and walked up a bluestone path. This mountainside was filled with meditation rooms. When he was near the peak, there was a towering Buddhist temple that overlooked all living beings. The golden tiles on top of the temple shone brightly. It was magnificent and sacred. He came to a Buddhist temple. The smell of sandalwood filled the air, refreshing his mind. He saw that on the golden cattail hassock in the temple, other than Master Mingda, there was also Senior Fa Kong. Monk Mingda was tall and burly. He had a round face and a white beard. His face was rosy and delicate like a baby. His eyes flashed as if they were real. Fa Kong had a square face and big ears. His face was as white as jade, crystal clear and warm. His extraordinarily large eyes were bright and full of vigor. When he looked around, he flashed a sharp aura. He had a strong and aggressive personality. Master, Senior. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and sat on the golden cattail hassock opposite Fa Kong. Fa Yuan, I just received news from the Demon Suppression Tower. It said that the head chief of the imperial residence of King and is proficient in the spear finger strike. Monk Ming said slowly after pressing his palms together. Fa Yuan was stunned. Almsgiver Chu? Mingda nodded slowly. The news should be correct. It was said by an Azura. Fa Yuan said, Could it be the Azura that Almsgiver Chu caught? That's them. Mingda said. Fa Yuan shook his head. They hate Almsgiver Chu. How can we take it seriously? I'd rather believe it than not. Mingda sighed and said, The spear heart finger is a secret technique of the temple that has never been passed on to outsiders. If Almsgiver Chu really managed to cultivate it, it would be no small matter. Fa Yuan shook his head. I've sparred with Almsgiver Chu a few times, but I've never seen him use the spear finger strike. I've used it a few times. Fa Kong said, Master, could he have secretly learned it from junior brother Fa Yuan? Fa Yuan and Mingda looked at him. If one could learn it just by looking at it a few times, it wouldn't be the great Tempest Temple's secret art. Fa Kong said, You can't underestimate the smart people in the world. It's said that this Chu Li is extremely intelligent. What if he learns the power of the spear finger strike and studies it on his own to create a finger technique? Mingda shook his head and said, He is so young. How many martial arts does he know, and how many martial arts he has seen? The spear heart finger was created by the ancestors by gathering the wisdom of the eminent monks of the past generations. Fa Kong asked, Then how did he learn it? The spear finger strike shouldn't have been spread to outsiders. It's impossible for the imperial house to have it either. He looked at Fa Yuan as he spoke. Fa Yuan shook his head and said, Senior brother, how could I have secretly passed the spear heart finger strike? That's true. Fa Kong nodded and said, That's strange. Fa Yuan said, Master, could it be that Azura is framing Almsgiver Chu? Mingda said slowly, Azura are naturally arrogant and see themselves as beings above all. Most of them won't lie, and they disdain lying. Fa Yuan said, There will always be exceptions. What if it's really the spear heart finger strike? How will the temple deal with it? Mingda sighed. He can only enter the Tempest Temple, shave his hair, and convert. Fa Yuan shook his head. Almsgiver Chu will never agree to that. What if he becomes a monk? Fa Kong asked. Mingda shook his head. The spear heart finger strike can't be cultivated unless it's an official disciple or a monk. What if he doesn't agree? Fa Kong asked. Mingda said, then we can only send out disciples from the Exorcist Academy to capture him and force him to become a monk. Master, Fa Yuan furrowed his brows. Mingda sighed. Fa Yuan, I know that you and Chu Li appreciate each other, but the temple's rules are the temple's rules. The Tempest Temple's foundation cannot be violated, not to mention him. Even I will not be able to escape if I violate the temple's rules. Sigh. Fa Yuan shook his head and said, Then I'll go ask almsgiver Chu. Fa Kong will go with you. Mingda said, This is a serious matter. The elders are all paying attention. Fa Yuan, you must not neglect the public for personal reasons. Don't make a mistake. He turned his head and said to Fa Kong, I'll leave this matter to you. Fa Yuan will assist from the side. You must not be biased, but you must not go overboard. As long as you are clear, the rest will be handled by the temple. Yes, master, Fa Kong said in a low voice. Fa Yuan hurriedly said, Master, why don't we let brother Fa Xiang go? Fa Xiang also knows Chu Li. Mingda shook his head and said, It's inevitable that he will be obsessed and cannot act impartially. But brother Fa Kong, Fa Yuan glanced at Fa Kong and shook his head. Brother Fa Kong cultivated the lion zen. His personality had become fierce and violent. He would be angry at the slightest provocation. Chu Li's personality was also very tough. Once the two of them met, they would fight for no reason. Fa Kong smiled and said, Brother, are you worried about senior brother? Fa Yuan nodded and said, Senior brother, you are too easily angered. It's easy to make things serious. It doesn't matter if it's serious or not. It's fine as long as we are clear about the matter. Mingda shook his head and said, Although Fa Kong has a fiery temper, he is fair in his actions. He will not neglect the public for personal reasons. Even if they fight, he will not hold a grudge and say bad things about him. Yes, Fa Yuan nodded helplessly. Move now. Try to make things clear within 3 days. Mingda said slowly, The elders in the temple are still waiting. Master, are the elders really not going to touch Moonfall Peak? Fa Yuan could not help but ask, Are we just going to watch them grow stronger and kill the innocent? This matter will be handled by the elders. You do not need to worry, Mingda said. Fa Yuan shook his head. I really cannot understand. Where is the compassion of the Buddhists? How can they allow these asuras to exist? Since the asuras exist in this matter, there is a reason for it, Mingda said in a low voice. If it was as simple as you think, wouldn't the temple have acted long ago? If I don't go to hell, who will? Master, I want to go to Moonfall Peak. Fa Yuan said in a low voice. Try to capture as many as possible to suppress them. If we can have one less asura, we can save countless innocent people. Master, I will go too, Fa Kong said in a low voice. Mingda shook his head. Several disciples have already died in their hands. Moonfall Peak is no different from hell. We cannot trespass. We must believe in the wisdom of the elders. Fa Yuan was silent. After a long while, he sighed. Master, you should know the plans of the elders, right? I don't believe that the elders do not dare to act rashly because they are afraid. Mingda sighed and nodded slowly. Chapter 6:16. Mingda was deep in thought and did not speak. Master, Fa Yuan hurriedly said, What is it for? Fa Kong said, Isn't it because they are afraid that they will take revenge on our temple disciples? Mingda shook his head and said, The elders have been trying to understand an antique study. As long as they understand this study, they will be able to subdue these asuras and become the temple's protectors. Protectors? Fa Kong was shocked. With their temperament, can they be tamed? Asuras were extremely proud and stubborn. No one could control them. It was not that the temple did not think of taming them and converting them to the Dharma. Every day, there were eminent monks preaching the Dharma to them, chanting Buddhist scriptures, but they were harder than a rock and stubborn. The eminent monks and Vedanta could not do anything about it. They could not kill them. Mingda said, "The temple has an antique study called the Three Realms Belief Technique. It can awaken the Buddhist nature of all beings and give them the confidence to become a Buddha." Fa Yuan and Fa Kong shook their heads. They had never heard of this technique. Mingda said, "Practicing this technique requires profound Dharma and devout faith. The stronger the faith, the stronger the power. However, it is extremely difficult to practice. The elders are trying to understand it. If they can understand it and successfully practice it, they will be able to dispel the Asura's evil tendencies and convert them to Buddhism. They will become the protectors of Buddhism. It can be said to be a meritorious event. It will definitely shake the three realms and go straight to the outland." Can this three realms belief technique really be mastered? Fa Yuan frowned. If it was so easy, the Asuras would not be so arrogant. Fa Kong nodded vigorously, agreeing with Fa Yuan's words. Turning the impossible into the possible is our Buddhism's business. Mingda said, "The elders are confident that it will succeed. Then are we just going to let these Asuras kill as they like?" Fa Yuan frowned. "This is too much. Why don't we capture them first and slowly subdue them? It's never too late to master it." Mingda said, "We won't let them kill as they please." Elder Jinjing in the temple has already started to set up a formation on Moonfall Peak. Once the formation is completed, Moonfall Peak will become a dead end, and the Asuras will not be able to leave the mountain. It's good that Elder Jinjing is taking action. Fa Yuan smiled. It's a pity that the formation isn't easy to set up. Mingda sighed. We still need to hide it from the Asuras. Otherwise, once they destroy it, all our previous efforts will go to waste. Hence, we'd rather be slower and safer. I'm fine. Fa Yuan nodded. As long as the temple did not stand idly by and do nothing, he would calm down and no longer feel guilty. "Master, why are there so many Asuras in Moonfall Peak?" Fa Yuan asked. "The number is too shocking." Mingda looked around and sighed. "This is actually the karma created by the predecessors, the cause planted. A batch of heart of Asura once flowed out of the temple, and then some Asuras were killed. The powerful Asuras today were all killed and reincarnated." This, Fa Yuan frowned. Mingda said, "These Asuras of Moonfall Peak are gathered here from all 5 countries. According to Elder Su Jing, Moonfall Peak is the holy land for Asuras to cultivate, and they progress extremely quickly. That's why there are so many high-level Asuras, and the Asuras of the other 4 countries are slowly gathering here." "Then where did these Heart of Asura come from?" Fa Yuan asked. Mingda shook his head. "This is a secret that no one knows, not even the elders. They have existed since the beginning of the temple." Fa Yuan said slowly, "With all the Asuras gathered here, if they really go on a killing spree, who in the great Ji dynasty can stop them? Only the Tempest Temple can stop them." Mingda said slowly, "There is a fine line between fortune and disaster. If we can cultivate the 3 realms trust technique, these Asuras will become protectors and the Tempest Temple's power will increase greatly, and we can also deal with the threat of the other 4 countries." Fa Yuan nodded slowly. After the 2 left the basilica, they immediately moved down the mountain towards the fairy's capital. Their gray monk robes fluttered as if they were riding the wind. "Junior brother, tell me about Chu Li," Fa Kong said in a low voice. Almsgiver Chu is an extremely intelligent person, and he knows everything from hearing one thing. With one sentence, he knows what you're going to say next. His actions seem bold, but he has a sense of propriety. I didn't expect you to praise this person so much, junior brother. I'm really not as smart as he is. If he's so smart, why did he secretly learn our spear finger strike? Senior brother, we still can't conclude that he learned the spear finger strike. That's true. Junior brother F.A. Yuan, your aptitude is exceptional. How is it compared to his? He became a grandmaster in 2 years. I can't compare to him. Don't belittle yourself. Your foundation is deeper. You'll go further than him on the road to becoming an enlightened master. Yes, F.A. Yuan nodded slowly. He firmly believed in this. Chu Li's aptitude was exceptional, but this was not the most important thing. What he learned and knew was the most important. The Tempest Temple's rich martial arts was incomparable to any other faction. It was useless no matter how smart Chu Li was. Most of the martial arts were unimaginable. They were the accumulation of thousands of years of wisdom. When the two arrived at the imperial residence of King, and it was already the next morning, Chief Zhu hurriedly came out to welcome the two. He stood in front of the residence and said apologetically, "Masters, unfortunately, the head chief is not here." "Where did he go?" F.A. Yuan asked with pressed palms. "I think he went to the Secret Guardians Hall." Chief Zhu smiled and said, "Masters, do you want to come in and rest, or do you want to go to the Secret Guardians Hall to take a look?" "Almsgiver Chu, please report to the Secret Guardians Hall." "Yes, I'll report immediately." The two arrived at the main hall. Chief Zhu ran to the Secret Guardians Hall to look for Chu Li. After a while, Chief Zhu came in and said helplessly, "Masters, the head chief left the Secret Guardians Hall. We don't know where he went." "What a coincidence! Could it be that he's avoiding us?" F.A. Kong frowned and said. F.A. Yuan shook his head. Chief Zhu smiled and said, "The head chief really didn't know that masters were coming, or else he would have welcomed you." "All right, then we'll wait in the residence. Please find us a courtyard." Yes, masters, please follow me." Chief Steward Zhu brought the two of them to an elegant and exquisite little courtyard. The two sat for a while. Footsteps came from outside. It was King En who entered the courtyard accompanied by Su Ning. King En bowed with pressed palms, smiled, and said, "Master F.A. Yuan, I'm F.A. Kong." "Master F.A. Kong, your presence in the imperial residence brings light to my humble dwelling. Are you looking for the head chief?" "Unfortunately, Almsgiver Chu is not here," F.A. Yuan said with pressed palms. King En said, "The head chief has been very busy recently. He rarely stays in the imperial residence. Please forgive him." "Your Royal Highness, you don't have to be so courteous. We only came here temporarily. May I know why the two of you are looking for the head chief?" King En picked up his teacup and pretended to smile casually and said, "Could it be that the head chief provoked the Tempest Temple again? If that's the case, I'll punish him heavily. The Tempest Temple has given me a new lease on life." "Your Royal Highness, you're exaggerating," F.A. Yuan smiled and said, "I still have to thank your Royal Highness for your understanding and magnanimity." "You're too kind." King En waved his hand and smiled. "Did the head chief cause trouble?" "Actually, it's nothing much. It's about the spear finger strike," F.A. Kong said. "We want to ask if Almsgiver Chu has cultivated the spear finger strike." "Spear finger strike?" King En was surprised. "The Tempest Temple's secret antique study." "Yes," F.A. Kong said. King En muttered, "The head chief does know an extremely powerful finger technique. He used this finger technique to kill many people, but it can't be the spear finger strike, right? There's nowhere to learn the spear finger strike." Chapter 617. P.S. Over. Your Royal Highness, may I know who died under Almsgiver Chu's finger technique? F.A. Kong asked. Kingen frowned and thought, I really can't remember. It must be quite a number. Head chief killed many people. I've been in isolation for a while, so I'm not sure. We can ask head chief in person. Yes, we'll ask head chief in person, F.A. Kong said. As they spoke, Chief Zhu's voice came from outside. Head chief has returned. Hee, what a coincidence. Kingen laughed. Chu Li strode into the courtyard, his white robe fluttering, calm and steady. He closed fist saluted. F.A. Yuan, Master, I didn't expect your Royal Highness to be here too. Kingen's face darkened and scoffed. Head chief, it's rare for the two masters to come. You're too slow. Chu Li smiled. Yes, it's rare for the two masters to come. Let's sit in my courtyard. No need, let's talk here. Kingen said, the two masters are asking if you know the spear finger strike. Chu Li raised his eyebrows and chuckled. I want to learn the spear finger strike, but where can I learn it? Can you teach me, F.A. Yuan? What finger technique did you use? F.A. Kong said, I'm F.A. Kong, ordered by the temple elder to come here. There's an Azura in the demon suppression tower who said you used the spear finger strike. Chu Li suddenly pointed his finger. He was only 4 steps away from F.A. Kong. F.A. Kong did not expect him to dare to attack. He was alarmed and wanted to dodge, but the finger energy had already hit his shoulder. There was a slight pain in his shoulder. Then his heart twisted violently, as if a strong force was trying to break his heart meridian. He quickly channeled to resist. This force kept devouring his inner energy. After a while, the finger energy grew stronger through devouring, becoming stronger and stronger. It was about to break his heart meridian. Brother, F.A. Yuan saw that the situation was not good, so he quickly pressed on his back to give him a hand. Both of them had the same inner energy heart technique. After the two inner energies converged, they became one and immediately suppressed this strange inner energy. Uffed, F.A. Kong spat out a mouthful of blood and finally got rid of the finger energy. His face instantly turned pale, and he broke out in cold sweat. Chu Li smiled at the two. How is it? Is it the spear finger strike? You... F.A. Kong's face darkened, and he glared at him fiercely. He slowly stretched out his hand to strike back. Chu Li did not mind at all. He smiled and said, F.A. Yuan, Master F.A. Kong, is this your temple's spear finger strike? If I don't experience it myself, it'll be useless no matter what I say. This. F.A. Yuan glanced at F.A. Kong. This finger force was strange. It was indeed not the spear finger strike. The power of the spear finger strike became even more direct and efficient. It was like a knife chopping down. If it was cut off, it would end a life. If it was not cut off, it would give up and escape a calamity. F.A. Kong frowned and did not say anything. The method of this finger force had the shadow of the spear finger. Almsgiver Chu, what finger technique is this? F.A. Yuan asked. Chu Li smiled. It's a finger technique that I created myself, the soul-devouring finger. How's its power? He used the cloud slashing power to activate the spear finger strike, and the center of his finger changed. It was different from the original spear finger strike, so he was not afraid of them seeing it. Back then, he had already expected that the Azura would tell on him, but he did not care. He had relied on the cloud slashing power. Good finger technique. F.A. Yuan nodded and looked at F.A. Kong. F.A. Kong scoffed. What a good soul-devouring finger. You imitated the spear finger strike, right? Chu Li nodded. I've experienced F.A. Yuan's spear finger strike before, so I've been thinking about how to create such a finger technique. Then I had a stroke of inspiration and actually succeeded. I'm really lucky. Oh, right. I have something important to tell you. F.A. Yuan. F.A. Yuan asked, What is it? Chu Li sat at the table with a serious expression. I've received news that a master from the Holy Church of Light has entered the martial arts world of the Ji dynasty. They're doing something secretly. Do you know about it? What did they do? Fa Yuan frowned. They're interrogating various sects about their martial arts. So far, they've found out about Snow Lunar Pavilion and Crouching Bull Mountain. How can the Tempest Temple not know about it? Fa Yuan raised his eyebrows and looked at Fa Kong. Fa Kong shook his head with a serious expression. He had never heard of this news, but he felt that it was unusual. Snow Lunar Pavilion and Crouching Bull Mountain were first-rate sects, only inferior to the 4 major sections. If their heart techniques were obtained by the Holy Church of Light, the 2 sects would be finished. Chu Li said, I've also found out that the Holy Church of Light has begun to shrink in the Li dynasty. It seems that they're not strong enough and are being pressured by the other 3 major sections. Yet, they're still trying to steal the other sects' heart techniques. Isn't this abnormal? Almsgiver Chu, you mean? Fa Yuan asked. Chu Li nodded. They're currently cultivating enlightened masters. Those grandmasters can't care about fighting with others, and are cultivating the great light scripture in isolation. After combining the upper and lower parts of the great light scripture, one can become an enlightened master by cultivating the extreme boundary. They're collecting these heart techniques to comprehend the great light scripture. Fa Yuan shook his head. In today's world, it's hard to become an enlightened master. Ever since the spirit beasts entered the 100,000 hills, the path to becoming an enlightened master was cut off. Only the number 1 in the world could become an enlightened master. The rest could not become an enlightened master, no matter how profound their heart techniques were. There were no exceptions until now. Chu Li said, combining the 2 parts of the great light scripture might allow one to break through the shackles and become an enlightened master. Fa Yuan remained silent. It was said that the great light scripture originated from the 33 heavens. It was the fundamental scripture of Mahavirokana. Those who cultivated it could receive the blessing of Mahavirokana and the blessing of a Dharmakaya. They could achieve supreme power and become the out-of-body of Mahavirokana. This was only a legend. No one knew if it could be done. This was because the great light scripture had been incomplete since a long time ago. It was divided into 2 parts. The Holy Church of Light only had the upper part, and the lower part was nowhere to be found. No one expected them to find the lower part. Finally, the 2 parts were combined, and they had the complete great light scripture. The upper part of the great light scripture was already so powerful that it became one of the 4 major sections. Now that they had the complete great light scripture, they could not imagine how terrifying it would be. Chu Li said, if another enlightened master appears, the world situation will change. The Tempest Temple should be prepared. Thank you, Almsgiver Chu. Fa Yuan nodded slowly. Fa Kong scoffed. Our temple will not stand idly by, and let them do whatever they want. This is the Ji dynasty, not the Li dynasty. Chu Li smiled. If more than 10 grandmasters come, sects like Snow Lunar Pavilion and Crouching Bull Mountain will find it hard to resist. We'll return to the temple immediately. We'll ask the temple to send people to support the sects. Fa Yuan said. Chu Li nodded. Oh, right. Where are the Azuras? Aren't they going to make a move? Fa Yuan sighed. The elders are setting up a formation to trap them. That's a good idea. Chu Li nodded. He had the same idea. He did not expect the Tempest Temple to be 1 step ahead. From Fa Yuan's mind, he saw the 3 realms faith technique and the Tempest Temple's plan. He was shocked. The Tempest Temple should not be underestimated. They had such an idea. Their appetite was really big. Chapter 6:18. P.S. Monday. The most important thing is the recommendation votes. I'm looking forward to your recommendation votes. He was relieved. The Tempest Temple was the Tempest Temple after all. As long as they took action, it was reassuring. Elder Zhenjing must be the high monk in the Tempest Temple who was well-versed in formations. The high monk's mastery in formations was far superior to his own. Unfortunately, he did not have the chance to ask for guidance. Formations were too powerful and would not be taught easily. It was more precious than the Tempest Temple's antique study. As for whether Elder Zhenjing would be in danger when he was setting up the formation, he did not have to worry about it. Elder Zhenjing's preciousness did not need to be mentioned. His cultivation level was probably very high as well. The Tempest Temple would probably send many masters to protect him, maybe even an enlightened master. This was foolproof. If Zhenjing was so easily lost, he would have died a long time ago. The Tempest Temple's Demon Suppression Tower was a formation that made people tremble in fear. There were countless people who hated Zhenjing, but no one could do anything to him. This showed how strict the Tempest Temple's protection was. If the Tempest Temple knew about the Holy Church of Light's actions, they would not sit idly by. He could leave it to them. Although the Tempest Temple was overbearing, it was not by luck as the number one sect. They could handle it cleanly, and he did not have to worry. He could finally relax. Almsgiver Chu, actually, the disciples of the Holy Church of Light are not that scary. They are not unafraid of death. Fa Yuan bowed. He decided to return the favor by pointing out the weakness of the Holy Church of Light's disciples. Chu Li showed a curious expression. Fa Yuan said, "It's not that they are unafraid of death. They just want to enter the Western paradise. However, not everyone can enter after death. Not being able to enter the Western paradise is their biggest fear." Chu Li pondered. If that's the case, if they know that they can't enter, they will be afraid. This is the source of their fear. Exactly. As long as there are emotions and desires, fear will exist. As long as they find their fear, they will not be afraid. If they want to step into the Western Pure Land, they'll need a strong enough fighting spirit and immense pressure. Between life and death, they'll be able to unleash their endless fighting spirit and unleash the secret technique of great light. They'll burn themselves into light and rush into the Western Pure Land in one go. Fa Yuan said slowly, "The secret technique of great light. So that's what it's called." Chu Li said, "If we kill them before they use the secret technique of great light, they won't be able to enter the Western Pure Land, right?" He used to have this suspicion, but he could not be sure. After all, the scripture of great light was very mysterious and could not be speculated with common sense. Exactly. Fa Yuan nodded slowly. When they encounter someone with a martial art like yours, they are actually afraid as well. Your movement technique is extremely fast, and you kill people cleanly. They don't even have time to react before they are killed. Naturally, they will lose the chance to step into the Western paradise. That's why they are afraid of you, Almsgiver Chu. Chu Li smiled. "You're afraid of me." In order to deal with the disciples of the Holy Church of Light, he had to reduce their fighting spirit and launch a surprise attack. These two things were the most crucial. As long as he could do it, they would not have the chance to ascend to the Western Pure Land. If he killed a few more people, they would be afraid of him. If that wasn't the case, based on the Holy Church of Light's way of doing things, they would have already come to seek revenge on you, Almsgiver Chu. Fa Yuan smiled. "They are even more overbearing and unscrupulous than our temple." Chu Li could not help but laugh. "Looks like Fa Yuan. You also know that the Tempest Temple is overbearing." Fa Yuan smiled and shook his head. This is the temple's rule. I can only follow it. Ahem. Fa Kong coughed lightly, reminding Fa Yuan to be careful with his words. I think that the Tempest Temple's way of doing things is not beyond reproach. King interrupted and smiled. The combination of hardness and softness, the balance of kindness and authority. It is indeed worthy of being the Tempest Temple's leader. Thank you, Your Royal Highness. Fa Yuan smiled and pressed his palms together. Fa Kong pressed his palms together too. King pressed his palms together in return and smiled. The Golden Lohan's power that I am cultivating is advancing very quickly. I really have to thank your temple. Your Royal Highness, the Golden Lohan's power is a wonderful technique in the world. Your Royal Highness should not only view it as a martial art, it is also a supreme dharma. Fa Yuan smiled. Your Royal Highness, you might as well read more Buddhist scriptures and understand the Dharma. It will greatly benefit your cultivation of the Golden Lohan's power. Your Royal Highness's comprehension is extraordinary. You might be able to cultivate the Golden Lohan and become indestructible. Thanks to Great Master Fa Yuan's auspicious words. King laughed out loud. This technique is indeed wonderful. My martial art has now doubled. As long as you understand the Dharma, your cultivation will advance by leaps and bounds. Fa Yuan said. King nodded incessantly. He understood it very well. Fortunately, revered Sir Su Ning is beside me. He preached to me so that I can understand the Dharma. King smiled. Unfortunately, revered Sir Su Ning said that the Dharma of the Tempest Temple and the Titanium Temple are not the same. What a pity. Fa Yuan glanced at Su Ning and nodded. The Dharma of the Tempest Temple and the Titanium Temple is different. The Dharma of the Titanium Temple and the Titanium Temple are different. Only those with a superior root vessel can cultivate the Dharma of the Titanium Temple. Only those with a superior root vessel can cultivate it. Our temple's Dharma is a gradual method. We advance step by step. Even ordinary people have the opportunity to become Buddha. I wonder if your temple can send a great master to my side so that I can experience the wonders of the Dharma from time to time. King asked. Fa Yuan glanced at Fa Kong and smiled. This matter needs to be reported to my master. I hope your Royal Highness will forgive me. I understand. King smiled. Then I shall await the good news from Great Master Fa Yuan. Fa Yuan glanced at Chu Li and bowed. Almsgiver Chu, I shall take my leave. Chu Li bowed. King personally sent them off. He watched as the two monks' gray robes fluttered and disappeared at the end of the street in the blink of an eye. Chu Li glanced at King and smiled. Your Royal Highness is in such a good mood. I must congratulate you. King's face darkened. He sneered. What's there to congratulate me for? Chu Li said, Your Royal Highness martial arts has recovered and improved greatly. How can I not congratulate you? As long as Chu Li was in the imperial residence of King, he would use the omniscient mirror to observe and monitor King. These days, he was busy everywhere and did not pay attention to King. He did not expect King's martial arts to recover and improve. Although he was not as good as himself, he was still considered a top-notch master. It was obvious that he had a fortuitous encounter. In just a few days, he did not expect something to happen. King stood up all of a sudden. King sneered. Are you really happy? Chu Li nodded. Your Royal Highness can recover your martial arts. Of course I'm happy. Humph. King sneered and turned to leave. Su Ning bowed to Chu Li and followed him in. Chu Li stood in front of the door and frowned. How did King recover his martial arts? He recalled the situation in his mind and suddenly remembered that Protector Commander Zheng Lide had not been seen recently. He said that he had something to do in his hometown. If that was the case, the problem was with him. In the world today, there were not many people who could help King and recover his martial arts. However, the world was so big, and there were countless extraordinary people. He could not be sure just because of this. No matter what, Kingen had recovered and improved greatly. He might want to kill him himself. He had been holding back for too long. Chief Zhu stood at the door and backed away. He wanted to stick to the door and be ignored. He looked at Chu Li uneasily. The Royal Highness suddenly came out of isolation. This was not a good thing for the head chief. Everyone in the imperial residence knew that the Royal Highness and the head chief did not get along. The whole fairies' capital knew about it. Once the Royal Highness recovered his martial arts, he would definitely seize the power of the imperial residence. The head chief would be in trouble again. Sigh. Chapter 619. Chu Li raised his head and looked at him, then smiled. Old? Don't worry, you'll be fine. Chief Zhu hurriedly showed a friendly smile. Thank you, head chief. Chu Li said, You're friendly to everyone. His Royal Highness can't do anything about it. Also, you're doing well as the external chief of the imperial residence. You don't need to be afraid. As long as you maintain the mentality of treading on thin ice, your position as the external chief will be as stable as a rock. Yes, thank you for your advice, head chief. Chief Zhu hurriedly said. Chu Li nodded and walked in. His mind was on King An. He saw King An coming to the study room in high spirits. The study room had been empty for a long time, so there was some dust on it. King An immediately flew into a rage. He found two maids and immediately gave them a beating. The two maids' skin was lacerated. They screamed and begged for mercy. King An stood on the steps. His bright yellow robe was handsome, but his gaze was as cold as ice. He looked at the two maids who were lying on the floor, then glanced at the few scribes who were as silent as cicadas in winter. He said in a low voice, "During the days I was in isolated cultivation, it seems like you've lived a good life. You've all put on some weight." Everyone hurriedly lowered their heads. King An had a good reputation, but he was lenient on the outside and cautious on the inside. The rules in the imperial residence were strict. The things he ordered them to do were not too tiring, but they were on tenterhooks, afraid of making mistakes, so they could not put on weight. During the days when King An was not around, they also did those things, but without King An by their side, they had no pressure, they were relaxed and fat, so it was inevitable that they would slack off. At this moment, they were all anxious and fearful. King An lightly said, "From today onwards, everything will return to normal. I hope you take care of yourselves. Don't provoke me, or else you won't have a good time." Yes, everyone replied respectfully. King An nodded in satisfaction, waved his hand, and gestured for them to leave. The two maids reluctantly thanked King An and were carried out. They would need to rest on the bed for at least 10 days. Chu Li walked towards Tianshu courtyard. He walked slowly, everything that happened in his mind. He sighed to himself. As expected, after King An suffered a setback, his temperament had become more impetuous and more dangerous. Before he got close to Tianshu courtyard, he heard the sound of a guzheng. Xiaoshi was playing the guzheng. From the sound of the zither, she seemed to be in a good mood, calm and happy. This kind of life, where she almost stayed in the courtyard and did not come out, occasionally going to the back garden of the imperial residence to have a look, was boring and depressing to most people. However, Xiaoshi was used to this kind of life. It was similar to when she was in the House of Duke. She felt that it was not bad. It was peaceful and peaceful without any worries. Occasionally, she would listen to Chu Li talk about the outside world and follow him around to see the scenery. Sometimes she would go to the Spirit Crane's peak to play with the little crane. Her days were exciting enough. As he entered the courtyard, the sound of the zither stopped abruptly. Xiaoshi's hands left the zither and waved at him. Chu Li walked over and sat opposite her, amidst the faint fragrance. Her face was as white as jade. She was extremely beautiful, and her eyes were so deep that they seemed to be able to suck one's soul into them. Even though he saw her every day, he still found it hard to look into her eyes. "Has King An recovered his martial arts?" Xiaoshi asked calmly. Chu Li was stunned. He smiled and asked, "When did you find out?" "In the public house. I'm more well-informed than you are." Xiaoshi smiled. "I can't believe this troublemaker has recovered his martial arts." Chu Li nodded. "I saw him just now." "His appearance has changed again?" Xiaoshi scoffed. "More honest?" Chu Li shook his head. "Quite the opposite. He's become even more savage. My lady, you should be careful. If anything goes wrong, just pinch the Saraira beads." "Yes, I know." Xiaoshi nodded and scoffed. "Just cripple him again." Chu Li frowned and thought for a while. He shook his head. "Once is fine, but twice is too much. Let's wait and see. You can't spoil this guy. Once he raises his head, you have to suppress him, or else he'll definitely cause a ruckus. Just you wait and see." Xiaoshi scoffed. "I'm just annoyed when I see him." I don't want to see him. Then don't meet him. Chu Li said he promised not to come to Tianshu courtyard. Out of sight, out of mind, Xiaoshi said. As the two of them were talking, Zhang Li's voice came from outside. Head Chief, His Royal Highness has invited you to the precious light courtyard. Chu Li nodded. Yes. What does he want now? Xiaoshi frowned. Chu Li said, I guess he can't wait to get rid of my position as the head chief. Get rid of it again. Xiaoshi scoffed. He's really annoying. It's as if the position of head chief is a treasure. Chu Li smiled. To an ordinary person, that's true. Do you care about that too? Xiaoshi rolled her eyes at him. Chu Li said, It doesn't matter if I have this position now. You might as well not go. Xiaoshi said, Just say that you don't have the time to bother with him. Chu Li chuckled. Xiaoshi said, Since he's so shameless, you don't have to be nice to him. Chu Li smiled. Let's see how he does it. It's quite interesting. Xiaoshi rolled her eyes at him. When Chu Li arrived at the precious light courtyard, Song Luiying and Xuaningyu were there. Lung Qing and Lung Qiu were also sitting at the side. Princeton sat at the main seat in the living room. Su Ning sat on the lower right while the lower left seat was left for him. Song Luiying and Xuaningyu were separated by a distance. Chu Li closed fist, saluted, and greeted each of them. He then sat opposite Su Ning and looked at Prince and, What's the matter, His Royal Highness? It's about your position. Prince said, Seriously, now that I've recovered my martial arts, I can manage the matters in the imperial residence. Chu Li, you're now the Centurion of the Secret Guardians Hall. You're also in a high position. You need to focus on your work, and your energy is limited. Leave the matters in the imperial residence to me. Chu Li smiled and closed fist saluted. I'm grateful for Prince and's understanding. Then from today onwards, you'll be the chief of Tianshu Courtyard. You'll be relieved of your position as head chief. Prince nodded in satisfaction. He felt strangely depressed. What he wanted to see was Chu Li's depressed expression. In the end, it was as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. He was relaxed and happy. Chu Li smiled. That's great. It's easy to take care of such a huge imperial residence when there's nothing to do. I feel that I'm lacking in energy too. Very good. Princeton was depressed, but his face showed a satisfied expression. He nodded. You've worked hard all this while. I want to reward you. You don't have a maid yet, right? Chu Li waved his hand and said, Thank you for your kindness, Your Royal Highness. Once Xueling returns, she'll be my maid. Xueling hasn't returned yet. Princeton said, I'll find a beautiful maid. You'll definitely be satisfied. Don't worry. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. You flatter me. Princeton's face darkened. He said coldly, Chief Chu, are you going to reject my kindness? Are you looking down on me? Chu Li said, Your Royal Highness, I'm most curious about how you recovered your martial arts. Tomorrow, the maid will come to your courtyard. King scoffed coldly and said, The recovery of my martial arts is a coincidence. My sudden realization of the Golden Lohan's power allowed me to recover to my original state in just one night. My power even doubled. How miraculous! Chu Li smiled. He was also cultivating the Golden Lohan's power. Although it was delayed by the cloud-slashing power and the heavenly demonic power, he still took some time to cultivate it every day. It was very beneficial to the sentient menace, and he was about to break through. Chapter 620. He had been writing for 10 years, from Taoist in Jin Yong's world to being a monk in a different world to records of urban holy writers. His results were getting worse and worse, and he was getting more and more perplexed. He doubted whether he could make a living and whether he should give up. Last year, His monthly income even dropped to a few hundred yuan. His wife was pregnant, so he quit his job and stayed at home to recuperate. Then the child was born, and he was hospitalized. He had to spend money and take care of his mother and daughter. It was the time when he needed money the most, but he didn't have any. His savings were quickly depleted, and he had to borrow money to survive. He doubted himself even more and wondered if he should find a job to support his family. During Qijian's annual meeting, I caught the editor-in-chief, Wu Dao, and asked him for advice on what I should write. At that time, Wu Dao said, "I started from wuxia, and I'm suitable to write about wuxia. Moreover, the starting point of wuxia is being supported, and it's slowly rising, so I can write about it." I decided to listen to him and write a wuxia novel. He had spent 3 months meticulously planning and incorporating elements of fantasy into the novel. He knew that he couldn't just stick to the old wuxia novel, or else it would be disastrous. He had to innovate and try his best to suit the tastes of the readers. The idea of bringing fantasy elements into the story was unexpectedly the same as what Zhang, the chief editor, had suggested. The chief editor, Zhang, found me and told me that my Xuanhuan leveling system was very good. It was compatible with the new era of wuxia that he was trying to promote. I could be considered a leader in the new era of wuxia. According to the editor-in-chief, Zhang, wuxia has been stagnant for too long. We have to catch up to the times. I also hope that my success can lead to more innovation in wuxia. However, this was all in the future. At that time, he wrote an outline and 100,000 words and submitted it to the editor at that time, Fan Fan. Fan Fan pointed out the shortcomings of the outline and the insufficiency of the beginning. Thus, he forcibly rewrote the beginning 7 times and was beaten to a pulp. The number of collections and responses for the new book were very ordinary. After it was put on the shelves, there were only around 2,000 subscriptions. It might be fine for a newbie, but for a veteran like me, who had been writing for 10 years, it was very bad. When it was first published, it was full of enthusiasm. It could write 10 chapters a day. But as time went on, it seemed that the average subscription rate did not increase at all. It was as if all its efforts were in vain. Slowly, it became disappointed and hopeless. It felt that it was another servant's book. It was really not suitable for it to write anymore. It could not continue writing web novels as it liked. Chapter 6:21. Princeton said, "Chief Chu, you don't believe me?" Chu Li smiled and said, "Although the martial arts of the Tempest Temple are exquisite, it's not as miraculous as this. It must be some other method that the Royal Highness doesn't want to announce to the public. But with this method, there's no need to be afraid of crippling my martial arts." Kingen scoffed. "Amethyst Mountain." Chu Li asked, "What enmity does the Amethyst Mountain have with your Royal Highness that they want to cripple your Royal Highness martial arts? Who knows what kind of madness they have?" Kingen sneered. "I will definitely make them pay the price." Chu Li hurriedly said, "Your Royal Highness, please be careful with your words. Don't provoke the people from Amethyst Mountain again. They don't have the guts." Kingen scoffed. Chu Li shook his head. "That might not be the case. If they dared to cripple your Royal Highness once, why wouldn't they dare to cripple your Royal Highness a second time? Is it because your Royal Highness is under the protection of the Tempest Temple? That's why they have reservations. Seeking protection from the Tempest Temple." Kingen frowned and stared at him in dissatisfaction. Chu Li smiled. "The Tempest Temple and Amethyst Mountain have never been on good terms. Now, they have even more reason to go against your Royal Highness. If they dare to mess around again, I'd rather give up the throne and ask my father for help." Kingen sneered. Chu Li said, "That's a good idea. The emperor is an enlightened master. The amethyst mountain must be afraid. King sneered and glared at him. He could hear the sarcasm in Chu Li's words, seeking protection from the Tempest Temple and asking for his father's help were all hinting at his incompetence, especially in front of his princess and daughter. He waved his hand impatiently. All right, you can go first. Chu Li's expression did not change. He closed fist saluted and smiled at Song Luiying, Xuening Yu, Lung Qing, and Lung Qiu. Princess Song, Princess Xue, ladies, I shall take my leave. The four women smiled and nodded apologetically. Chu Li smiled nonchalantly and walked out of the precious light courtyard. He was secretly annoyed. It seemed like he had to teach King a lesson, or else he would be so arrogant. If he did not teach him a lesson, he would really think that he could control everything and that he could suppress him at will. Xiao Shi was waiting for him at the Tianshu courtyard. She quickly welcomed him. How was it? Chu Li smiled and said, Lady Xiao Qi is very clever. You've guessed it correctly. Did he really take away your position as the chief steward? Yes, from today onwards, I am the director of the Tianshu Institute. What a bastard. Xiao Shi said, hatefully. Although Chu Li did not care for this position, not wanting it and having it taken away were two completely different things. It seemed that King was ready to shed all pretense of cordiality and chase Chu Li out of the public house, completely disrespecting the public house. Chu Li had also guessed King's intention. He was pursuing them relentlessly and would not stop easily. Seizing the position of head chief was only the first step. He sighed and said, King wants to drive me out of the imperial residence, not only to vent his anger, but also because of foresight. The two of them came to the gazebo and sat down. A cool breeze blew, gently. Yang Su served them tea and retreated gently. Don't tell me it's to offend the High Duke's public house. Xiao Shi scoffed. Chu Li nodded slowly. Xiao Shi frowned and pondered for a while before nodding. You do have some brains, but isn't this too obvious? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by the world? Chu Li said, He doesn't care that much. He only cares about what the emperor thinks. The Curreny public house was not the same as before. It had a great reputation and prestige, but it also provoked the imperial court. The closer King was to the public house, the more the imperial court and the emperor would be suspicious. His next step is to drive you out of the public house. Xiao Shi frowned. Chu Li nodded. Most likely. Then what should we do? Xiao Shi scoffed. Let's lie low for now. Chu Li smiled. No matter what, I'm still rank 1. If there's no valid reason, he won't be able to drive me away. I'll stay at the secret guardian's hall so that he won't be able to find anything. We have to strike first, Xiao Shi said. Chu Li nodded and smiled. Xiao Shi rolled her eyes at him and scoffed. What bad idea are you thinking now? Chu Li said, His Royal Highness is using a honey trap to arrange a maid for me. I'm afraid I can't refuse. Honey trap? That means he won't drive you away immediately, Xiao Shi said. Chu Li smiled. I think he'll have to take it slow, one step at a time. I won't be able to resist. Honey trap. Xiao Shi glanced at him. You're looking forward to it, aren't you? Chu Li said, I wonder what kind of beauties His Royal Highness will collect. Men, Xiao Shi shook her head. You better be careful. Don't fall for it. Chu Li smiled. Honey trap is hard to guard against. It's considered an overt plot. The next morning, Chu Li felt strange. He felt like something was missing. He suddenly remembered that Lung Qiu and Lung Qing did not come. In the past, they would be cultivating in the courtyard at this time. They did not disturb him and treated it as their own courtyard. However, he did not see them today. He frowned. Lung Qing and Lung Qiu did not talk much. They only nodded and greeted him when they saw him. They continued to cultivate their swordsmanship. The two of them were very persistent in cultivating their swordsmanship. They were hard-working and serious, far better than the average person. He liked the two of them. He did not feel it usually, but now that they were gone, he felt a little disappointed. Using the omniscient mirror, he saw where the two of them were. The two of them were in King N's cultivation courtyard. They were pouting and slowly cultivating their swordsmanship. After cultivating for a while, they stopped and sat on a chair to talk. Father is really stingy. Lung Qiu scoffed. Does he have to treat the head chief like this? He's not the head chief anymore. Be careful with your words. Don't make father angry. Lung Qing wiped the fine beads of sweat off her fair forehead and said lightly, Father is in a fit of anger. Don't talk too much. But this is too much. Lung Qiu scoffed. When father was in isolated cultivation, the head chief worked hard to manage the imperial residence. He put in so much effort and worry. Once he came out, he immediately cast the head chief aside and removed him from his position. He even told us not to get close to him. Isn't this burning the bridge after crossing it? We'll talk about it after this. Lung Qing said, Our words won't work. Let mother and the others persuade him. They're about to quarrel with father. It's useless. Lung Qiu pouted. Matters between adults are not that simple. Let's not worry about it. Lung Qing shook her head. Let's find a chance to talk to Chief Chu today. The head chief must be furious. Lung Qiu scoffed. If it were me, I'd just pile up my load and not do anything. Maybe father wants Chief Chu to be like this. Lung Qing shook her head and sighed. Her eyes flashed as if she was thinking about something. The two of them talked for a while and got up to continue practicing their swordsmanship. Logically, the cultivation courtyard was the most suitable place to practice martial arts. However, they always felt uncomfortable. They could not bring themselves to practice their swordsmanship. It was as if the air in the cultivation courtyard was not refreshing. When they breathed in the air here, their bodies became heavy and stiff. They did not feel as light and comfortable as they did in the head chief's courtyard. Why don't we ignore father's order and go there secretly? Lung Qiu smiled. He won't know anyway. Even if he knows, it's nothing. That's fine. Lung Qing said. Chapter 622. Chu Li let out a smile. Lung Qiu and Lung Qing had always stayed in the imperial residence and rarely left the residence. They were not involved in the fight for the throne, so there was no scheming in the residence, so they were pure. This was also related to Prince N's hypocrisy. To maintain his sense of justice, he did not tell them about the dark side of the human heart, so they did not know how sinister the human heart was and how difficult the world was. The two women pushed open the door of the courtyard and walked in lightly. When they saw Chu Li practicing his swordsmanship, they smiled. Head chief. Chu Li smiled. You still dare to come over. Aren't you afraid of His Royal Highness' anger? We won't listen to our father's nonsense, scoffed Lung Qiu. Lung Qing said, Chief Chu, what's going on between you and our father? Chu Li shook his head helplessly. You know about this too? Come, sit down and talk. He sat at the stone table with the two women and sighed. Actually, it's because of the 10 grandmasters on the way to escort the bride. They greatly damaged the vitality of the imperial residence, and His Royal Highness was also shocked, so he felt ashamed of it. It planted a knot in his heart, and he could not untie it no matter what. 10 grandmasters, it was indeed head chief's fault. You were too ruthless, said Lung Qing. Chu Li said, At that time, I was escorting His Royal Highness, and they disguised themselves as assassins to assassinate His Royal Highness. In my anger, I dealt a heavy blow and caused a mess inside and outside. His Royal Highness knows that I have no ill intentions, but he could not get over it. I destroyed his decades of hard work, and I can understand His Royal Highness' anger." "I see," said the two women in surprise. They only knew that Chu Li killed 10 grandmasters in the residence, and they always felt that their father's anger was understandable, but they did not know that the head chief killed those grandmasters to protect their father. If that was the case, it was their father's own fault, and that was why he was so angry. Whenever they saw the head chief, they would think of this stupid incident, and it was inevitable that they would feel indignant and resentful. They shook their heads and sighed. "Head chief, we really can't help you with this matter." Chu Li said, "This is between me and His Royal Highness. Don't get involved, and don't come over again, in case His Royal Highness gets angry." "Let him get angry." Lung Qiu pouted her lips. "Let's practice our swordsmanship." Lung Qing said, "Master your swordsmanship as soon as possible. Lung Tao won't let it go easily. He will find fault with you again. He must be training with all his might to avenge his humiliation. You must continue to suppress him." "Yes, sword training." Lung Qiu leaped up. As soon as she heard Lung Tao's name, she was filled with vigor. The Royal Highness must be unhappy and treat the 4 of them as traitors. If there's a chance, he will definitely cause trouble. Previously, the Royal Highness crippled his martial arts and isolated himself to train hard. They lived a free and unfettered life. Now that the Royal Highness had come out of isolation and recovered his martial arts, their good days had come to an end. The Royal Highness would probably settle the score later. Chu Li extended his hand and said, "Let me take a look at the letter." Lu Xing took out the letter without hesitation and presented it with both hands. Chu Li took it and did not open the envelope. He placed it under the moonlight and looked at it. He nodded. "There's a strange fragrance on it. Normal people can't smell it, but rare beasts can." The 4 of them's expression turned ugly. It was obvious that it was used for tracking. If they brought it along, they would be watched. If their whereabouts were known, it would be easy to set up an ambush. Chu Li shook his head and said, "There should be a code in the letter. It's for the Feng Huang Mountain to take care of you. There are 4 of you, but once you enter the Feng Huang Mountain, it won't be easy to escape unscathed. With these 2 methods, I'm afraid you will lose your lives." "Then what should we do?" The 4 of them looked even uglier. Although their light body technique was good, no matter how good it was, they would not be able to withstand such an ambush. It was probably because of their light body technique that the Royal Highness used such a method. The Feng Huang Mountain did not have 1 or 2 grandmasters. Perhaps when they arrived, the Feng Huang Mountain would not only have grandmasters from the Feng Huang Mountain, there would also be masters from other sects waiting for the 4 of them. Chu Li said, "Do you have any ideas? Are we going to disobey the order? Then we'll chase you out of the public house. Why don't we just throw the letter away? If the letter is lost, you will be punished when you return." Then, "Head chief, what should we do?" Chu Li smiled. "Pretend that you don't know anything and send the letter over." The 4 of them were stunned. Chu Li said, "I'll follow you secretly. I want to see who's going to ambush who." "Thank you, head chief." The 4 of them were overjoyed. They quickly closed fist saluted and thanked him. Now that he had angered him, he would pretend to be a disciple of the Amethyst Mountain and cripple him again, so that he would obediently go into isolated cultivation. However, Kingen wanted to clip his wings and deal with the people around him, so he had no choice but to treat it seriously. If he really failed miserably in an easy task and still had to use the Eclipse Purloin skill, then he would be in big trouble. He decided to teach King another lesson this time, so that he would not be unscrupulous and go overboard. The bright moon hung high in the sky, and a cool breeze blew gently. Zhang Lide was cultivating in the courtyard, bathing in the cold moonlight. Zhu Tianhua's voice could be heard from outside. "Commander Zhang, Chief Chu requests your presence." "Chief Chu?" Zhang Lide was startled. He immediately remembered that it was Chu Li. At the mention of Chu Li, he felt goosebumps in his heart. Even though he sided with the Royal Highness and went against Chu Li, he still respected Chu Li very much, so he would not meet him if he could. "It's late. I'm already asleep," Zhang Lide said. "If there's anything, we'll talk tomorrow." Zhu Tianhua said in a low voice. "Chief Chu said that if you don't go, he will come personally. It's best not to trouble him to come personally." "All right then," Zhang Lide nodded helplessly. If Chu Li came personally, he would not be talking nicely. He would definitely teach him a lesson. If he knew what was good for him, he could only go now. He pushed the door open and saw the tall and sturdy Zhu Tianhua standing outside, coldly staring at him. Zhang Lide said, "Let's go." Zhu Tianhua said in a low voice, "Please." Zhang Lide followed him and walked forward. He spoke to dispel the uneasiness in his heart. "When did Protector Zhu come to the imperial residence?" "Not long ago." Zhu Tianhua was a man of few words. He knew that Zhang Lide was loyal to the Royal Highness, so he was his enemy. There was no need to be too polite. Zhang Lide looked at his expression and shook his head helplessly. He sighed and did not say anything else. When they arrived at Chu Li's courtyard, Zhang Lide stood still. He hesitated and did not move. He was anxious and had an inexplicable fear. He did not want to go in. Zhu Tianhua stood at the side and did not move. It was as if he was preventing him from escaping. Zhang Lide looked at him and took a deep breath. He slowly raised his hand and knocked on the door lightly. It made a knock-knock sound. It was so soft that it could not be heard. He hurriedly used a little more force and knocked twice. Knock, knock. This time, the sound was very loud. It was especially loud in the night sky. Chu Li's clear voice came from inside. "Come in." Zhang Lide took another deep breath and pushed the door open. He entered the courtyard and closed fist saluted. "Chief." Chu Li was sitting at the stone table drinking wine. The white jade cup emitted a warm luster under the moonlight.